Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 197. This is Carl.
This is Jody.
And this is Justin.
Welcome back, Justin.
Thank you, sir.
It's been
Thank
a
you
while.
for having me.
It's been a while. You're always welcome. You're always
Always.
welcome. This episode is our Show of Force, Engines of Faith and Ruin. This is the Show of Force encompassing both the Imperial and Chaos Knights codexes. So sit back. It's a long episode.
Aren't they all?
But a fun one. I you know what? I had so much fun that Justin was back. I had a great time. Yeah. So
Did you really? There was multiple times of me almost getting booted out again.
you have never. Let me set the. You have never been booted out.
It's always a fun time. It's always a fun time with you, Carl
You
and Pez.
You like pushing the edge. You know,
Oh,
you like being
man.
edgy.
I'm just me, man.
It's like your opinion, man.
Well, this show is sponsored by our Patreon supporter, Christopher Box. If you didn't know, we have a Patreon going. You can see it at the link on our website, theindependentcharacters.com. And
Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christopher. People like Christopher are helping the show, for one, get nicer chairs. We brought this up last episode. Now Justin has felt the nice chair.
Chairs, beautiful mixing boards, helping with Adepticon travels, all kinds of fun stuff.
How's the chair feeling?
Oh, so good.
Still
Well,
wiggling.
I walked in, so initially I felt like, man, is this really the Astronomicon? Because it was a little dark, you know, like it was a little chaotic. And I walked in and I was like, man, the light of the Astronomicon is a beaming.
Yeah, it is.
I had lights installed
Yeah,
here
so
a couple months ago. Justin hasn't been here for a while. But it used to be kind of dark. Like as we played towards the evening, it got hard to see what our dice were saying. But
No, every little bit is
solve
just,
that problem.
It's good.
Yeah, it's all good.
And these chairs, ooh, man, I'm good.
You're going to buy one for painting.
I am. I need a new chair badly.
Well, yeah. So at the end of this episode as well, we have an interview with Kat and Caleb from CK Studios.
No, not those two.
Justin, Kat, and Caleb. Although Justin, you get through the rest of the show.
Yeah,
So
just the show.
just the show. Which,
I'll
let's
let them-
face it, is the best part.
It's fun. It's always fun.
If you don't know what Show of Force is, in Show of Force, we take a look. We don't do codex overviews.
But we do assault your wallet.
I was going to say, yeah, these should always start with like a
Warning.
warning.
Warning. Lock up your wallet. Typically, people have said that these shows cause them to spend a lot of money. But
I don't think this one's going to help at all.
listen, here's what I'm saying. Originally, the codexes used to have in the back the question, or at the front, the question,
Why?
Why do you collect this army? Like, what is interesting about this army? We seek to answer that question. So we're going to look at the entire history of the army in question, in this case, Knights and Imperial and Chaos Knights. We'll look at the how GW has rolled them out. We'll talk about it from a mechanical standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, from a lore standpoint, every supplement, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mechanical standpoint.
sit down, be prepared. If you haven't experienced a Show of Force before, this is a pretty good one. So, okay. Elite Choice. Elite Choice is, over the last couple of weeks, we have seen as people are doing projects through our Facebook group.
Yep.
And we like to call out the ones that really stood out to us for the intervening time. For me, and this is so interesting, it was Jeff Scott and his eBay Rescues project.
Yeah.
And this is his first one, which this is the old Dante? No.
Tycho.
Tycho.
It's the old
That's it.
Tycho.
Rip.
Yep.
The old Tycho model. Boy, did Tycho. I think the first comment was looking at the original, because Jeff is posting how he got the model from eBay, and then after stripping it and repainting it, what it looks like now. And I think my favorite comment about this Tycho was, he's seen some stuff. Because, boy, that is a thick series of paints on that model.
Yeah, dude, that or he's a big Kiss fan. That's a lot of eye black on the original model.
There's a
got
little bit of
some
black metal.
eyeshadow.
There's a little bit of black metal in that Tycho, no doubt. A little
That
bit of
is
corpse
a
paint.
rough looking Tycho. And Jeff took the model, stripped it, repainted it, looking way more presentable now. He looks great.
I love the paper banner, dude.
Yeah.
Such a throwback.
He specifically said he wanted to go back to the original release paint job style.
It's amazing.
And then that little hint of goblin green.
But what's so
nice call.
But
Good
what's
call.
so interesting about
like
this is what an interesting idea. Like, I'm going to pick these messed up models, clean them up, and make them presentable. And I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like I actually started looking around eBay and going, I'm like I don't have enough things going on. I got plenty of models.
Well,
like
Ties in well with you. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, as Justin's back with us, the palette cleanser, right? As you mentioned a little bit later on, the notion of a palette cleanser, of having some, if there's some old classic model that you always kind of wanted, you might be able to pick it up real cheap with a janky paint job on it from back in the
you
day.
Can strip.
Yeah,
you can strip.
And you know what? People talk a lot of kind of crap, so to speak, about like the old style of model with like that stoic kind of like.
They have a very single plane because of the way they were cast.
But sometimes like a model like this dude's just like, okay, so he's surveilling a battlefield, right?
Yeah.
Like it kind of works. It's a good sculpt.
It's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think he did a really good job of painting the golds and
for sure.
the yellow. It's well done.
Yeah. Well done. Good job, Jeff. I think it's a cool idea. And kind of dovetailing off that, Jody.
Yeah, like Lars Hogberg, his was to take that maybe a step further and maybe not do an eBay rescue, but we all got our closets of shame. We all got those models that sat in the way back. They're like, man, that model's real cool. Well, it was really cool in 94. So why not? He did a fun experiment. He says he took an old figure and tried to paint it to the best of your capabilities. And he's got an old Cyberite from the original Dark Eldar line. And man, if there is a line of models that has not held up well to the aging process, it is the OG Dark Eldar release. Mm-hmm. But Lars has done a heck of a paint job on this thing. He's got some real nice blending going on the reds. Yep. And he did follow up his original post with some touch-ups. He's added some really nice greens and spent some time with it. This is something I've done. I like to follow the, as they call them, Old Hammer forums as well.
Yeah.
Where I'll look at some really old 80s models and things like that and see people really put some love and TLC into them, like Lars has done here on this Dark Eldar Cyberite.
And you know what's so interesting about this, too, is because when this model came out, you never would have seen it painted this way, because painting styles have changed over the years so much, and tools and techniques have changed so much that you wouldn't have seen it painted like this. So it's interesting to see a modern paint job
on an old sculpt.
Old sculpt.
Yep, and that's a thing I'm a huge fan of.
Well, it's proof that the sculpt can obviously help the paint job a lot, but ultimately it comes down to the paint job. Like I think through my Facebook feed, I actually saw somebody, a really good painter, took it was like a Pez dispenser of like some wrestler and put like a sick paint job on it. And it looked.
Oh, I saw this. The John Cena.
The John Cena.
Yeah, it's like a little John Cena bust.
And it looked phenomenal.
And the paint job's incredibly looks like some post-apocalyptic.
That's crazy.
So
Terminator,
ultimately,
dude.
the sculpt can definitely obviously help, right? Like we all like cool models, but ultimately you could take the best sculpt in the world and not clean your mold lines and put a crappy paint job on it. And so it is what it is, right? But what a fun exercise. And Lars is such a cool guy too. Like we ping each other quite a bit these days.
Oh, cool.
He's a big Dark Eldar guy, so we're always talking tactics and stuff. Really cool guy and very cool, dude.
Yeah, I
Looks
love that
amazing.
project. Way to go, Lars.
All right. And Justin?
I had to choose Bill Morlock and his Void Stalkers Astartes Impulsor.
That was a cool looking vehicle.
Yeah,
he did a
just
great job on this.
Stunning. Dude's a really good painter, has a really good understanding of light and shadow and color theory, and it really looks good. Although I look at that and I'm like, man, I just want to see that on an Emperor's Children army, not a Imperial dog army, but really well done. And man, a whole army painted to that standard would be
incredible.
Incredible. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, well done, Bill.
Well, guys, I think we're just going to launch right into the show. We've got quite a long one ahead of us, so sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the show. Get your painting done. Do whatever you got to do to be productive. So we'll see you at the other side. All right, let's kick it off with a little hobby progress. You know what? I think we should let Justin go first since he hasn't been here in a long time. And we're just going to throw him right in the deep end, not let you warm up.
No progress at all. I actually quit the hobby. I've decided
this is why you haven't been on.
because now I'm like painting for Golden Demon. I'm above talking about it.
You've ascended.
I've ascended.
So this whole time you've been working on a model.
Right.
Yeah.
An arm.
I've got half the arm complete.
Right. It's beautiful.
The composition.
The fingernails are incredible.
So since I haven't been on since Jeebus was a corporal,
You haven't been on since, and it was funny because you came in here like, it's bright in here. I'm like, you haven't been here since I had the lights?
It's so bright.
I got the lights.
I'll keep the beanie on so my bald head doesn't blind you all.
We've got the new chairs.
So comfy.
We've got. You can thank the Patreons for that.
Thank you, patrons.
And we got.
Thank you so much.
Or patrons, I guess. What else? I don't know.
It's
all kinds of new stuff.
Definitely a little more organized as far as like, well, maybe you've just moved the tables away.
Well,
you have
I'm cleaning up. So
you've always been organized. Not to say you aren't, but it just, I love this room. This room.
It's a great room for gaming.
It's amazing, yeah. And the lighting, I could see you just playing games, just being phenomenal.
Now
you can
now
see
with the lighting on it, especially
games.
that light is off right now, but you can do each one individually.
I don't have to get my iPhone flashlight out.
Yeah, to see what's going on in the game.
Sight. Yeah.
It was frustrating to me too. I mean, there was times where I was taking the lights that I'd gotten for the video stuff we want to do and put those on. I'm like, this is not helping. So
it's gorgeous, man.
Now we can see.
As far as hobby progress goes, though,
now we can see all the errors in our paint schemes.
So it's good. It's good for the hobby.
Yeah,
all in all, for sure. For the most part, like I've been all over the place since I've been on the show, working on all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, let's throw some of this in. So you've been traveling a lot. You didn't get fired from the show.
Lot.
You were done.
Not a whole lot, but yeah, a fair enough amount.
Every time you turn around, you're off
in a different random state,
painting people.
My last class was, Kansas. Thank you, Nathan, for hosting me. You're a champion. But yeah, the CK thing's been on top of a full-time job.
Yep.
And family.
Yep.
And it's been.
I'm just setting the record straight that
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's not that we're like you're welcome to come on the show anytime, man. It's just you're gone.
No, and I appreciate. We had that conversation when the whole CK thing started, right?
Yeah.
Everybody just so the record straight. It was like, Carl, I love the show, but
I told you you're going to be
going to have to take a little bit of a break, and so it's all good. It's all
right.
good. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, it's your second home, man.
Yeah, it is. It feels good to be back.
Maybe
behind
it's
the
your
mic.
third now. I don't know.
I love everyone equally.
One
I'm a lover.
pays better than this one.
This is true.
So there you go.
This is true.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing all this time.
Yeah. So I've started a couple Golden Demon projects.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I have.
You don't sound too enthused.
He said he started a Golden Demon project. That's generally, I don't know. For me, that level of I'm in, it is.
That's a commitment.
Yeah, that's not happening tomorrow. That's going to take some time.
And what I ran into the first project, which I think I talked about on I believe Lords, was a squad of really custom built Emperor's Children.
Okay.
Where every model was really converted and I got 2 or 3 of them done, and I wanted to do a squad of 6 and the whole 6 deadly sins and have each one different. And I realized I'm like, this is going to be way more work than I'm going to have time for just in the build process.
Yep.
So one of the models might make it into my single figure entry, but I kind of took a step back from that, and I'm pretty much working on some Dark Eldar entries for Golden Demon. Yeah.
Something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I think that probably helps.
Yeah. And I'm also passionate about Slaanesh.
Yeah.
But I know myself too. Like I know I'm cursed. And as soon as I get that squad done, the Emperor's Children are going to get released, it's going to be a whole new release, and but so we'll see with that. But that took a lot of my time, and I've kind of hit the brakes on that a little bit.
Last month's White Dwarf had, I don't know if you looked through it, but Slaanesh was featured heavily within it.
Oh, really?
For Age of Sigmar and stuff.
Okay.
And just looking at the whole armies that they were displaying there. I'm not a huge Slaanesh fan in terms of gameplay. I love the lore behind it.
Sure.
But seeing that army, I was like, oh man, this thing is really cool looking.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, it seems like really good painters usually gravitate towards those really contrasted color schemes, and Slaanesh offers that. But other than that, stuff I've actually gotten done, I actually went back to, not even in preparation for this show, because I started working on this before you pinged me hey, this was going to be the topic, but I started working on my Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
Because I had the CK 103 model Knight that I painted.
Right.
But I'm a DACA guy when it comes to my Knights, as we'll get into. And I wanted, one of the cool things with Chaos Knights, they can have 2 big guns.
Right.
So I had one arm that was the battle cannon, the rapid fire battle cannon, and I wanted a thermal cannon. So I basically scratch built
Oh, I told you I have the pieces.
I know.
Okay.
I want 2.
Oh, okay. Do you still need the one?
I do. All I need is just the tip.
Okay.
Just the barrel.
Got it.
It's very
Good.
distinctive.
That's the
barrel.
piece. That's the piece
the barrel.
I'm willing to give away. So
Awesome. Yeah, because when you buy that kit, you end up with that. Usually people give it the different guns.
Yeah.
But I had my bits box is extensive, so I was able to, through putty and random like Robotech bits I had laying
Nice.
just random stuff and spikes and green stuff and random.
A true chaos player, spikes and green stuff.
Totally should have brought the model over. It looks rad. Like it came out perfect. So I built a thermal cannon, painted that up, did the whole CK method on it. So it's all heated up and galvanized.
Did you see? I think it was in it was in one of the painting groups. The guy that posted the pictures of actual metal and the temperature at which it gets the different colors.
Got super nerdy on heated metal.
It was.
I haven't seen the temperature
love it.
breakdown.
It
I've seen.
was really cool.
Oh.
It was really cool. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
All I know is when like I'm in public and I'll see like a muffler that's been like
you start looking at.
I look at it, I'm like, damn, Caleb, you nailed that. So I banged that out, and then I also scratch built and converted a rocket pod for his carapace out of just random bits box stuff.
Crazy.
So he's like super shooty, and I did parent and expenses, and I'd rather just because those weapons, as we'll get into, like they cost a lot of money to buy separately. Games Workshop doesn't have a kit for extra bits for. So if you can save $70-$80 from a bits box,
amount of money,
like,
dude.
You know what I mean?
That's a significant amount of money.
It came out looking really cool, so I'm super excited about that. Got that done, and then in preparation for a game, I wanted to run a second foul blight spawn. And these are the Nurgle guys that basically are so gross that other Nurgle guys don't want to be around them, and they have a flamethrower attached to their butt that just shoots out horrible things.
Yeah, that guy's a real eye opener when on the tabletop.
Sure.
I can see why you would want a second.
Yeah, so having 2 of those behind a wall of plague bearers is fun.
For who?
Which why I like them random though. Like their gun can either just go or just raw. Like it's super
You heard
random.
it here first, folks.
It's either like when you sit down on the toilet and
You're like, no, stop. Oh yeah, Justin's back.
here I am.
All right.
So I got before a game, I was like, hey, I have this apothecary Nurgle guy. I'm probably never going to run this guy. So I just did a quick conversion on him. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Painted him up real quick and got him ready, like literally like in an hour before the game. And he worked out well. Other than that, with the Blood of the Phoenix or Phoenix Rising book, obviously as the Eldari player that I am, I picked that up.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to get back to my Corsairs. So I'm going to be using a lot of the rules that are in that because Corsairs kind of got the kibosh a bit. And
yeah, I mean, these Psychic Awakening things, I talk about it on the...
so cool.
I talked about it on the Patreon episode with Aaron just recently. And they add so much flavor to every army. I think that's what I like about them most. Like, people were taking too literally the Psychic Awakening term. It's not that Necrons are going to get Psychers or Tau are going to get Psychers. It's the event, and then every one of those is going to get kind of flavor. I mean, you can see what they've done already. The Chaos one, which is out tomorrow. I think it's out tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Is Emperor's Children.
Oh, yes.
Word Bearers.
Cannot wait to
Night
talk
Lords.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's I just love that it adds more to your army. Like you can make all these interesting choices. Next one's going to be great. I can't wait for it to come out. I wonder what it's going to be about.
I'm looking at like units like Swooping Hawks.
Oh yeah.
And Night Spinners and things like that. Like units that I wasn't really taking before and going, oh,
kind of like a nice little refresh.
Yeah. Yep. So with that in mind, the last couple of weeks, I managed to bang out some Eldar stuff. So I'm really excited to go back to my Corsairs. And I actually, I had a Wraith Knight, the Scathatch Wraith Knight, the double Melta guy.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Warp Spider Wraith Knight. I listened to some random podcast where some guy was talking about using those rules. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. So like I put a bunch of work into him. So I'm actually kind of going back into my Corsairs a bit, just as like my Golden Demon palette cleanser, and I'm tired of looking at the same arm for
3
5
weeks.
hours. I can just go back and just shoot some airbrush and just boom. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but still
Cool.
very much enmeshed in the 40K hobby.
All right. Well, Jody, you want to go next?
It'll be quick, but yes, I do. I was actually super inspired by Colin Ward recently posted. He's been doing all kinds of different tutorials and things on his page. And he posted that he had started working on Sister Superior Amalia Novena, which was the limited edition. I don't know if she's limited, but there was the pre-release Sister that came out that's based on the Karl Kapinski art.
Sure.
Great kit.
Mine is still sitting at the Games Workshop store in Los Gatos.
I bet you could pick it up now.
Can you go in there now?
I don't know. Can you?
It's not open yet.
Still not open?
No.
I did not know that.
For those who
They're
didn't know,
closing.
there was a fire next door.
Oh,
Man, where have you been? There was a fire next.
'Cause I go to Games Workshop
It's been
stores
closed
so
for
often
like
to
2
play.
months, dude. No, I'm just saying, it's fun to
I didn't
pop in
realize
there.
it's been that long.
sure.
Yeah, at least 2 months. Probably longer.
Wow.
There was a fire next door. They had to close the shop. I've got actually 2 orders there. I got my Warcry Warband is there, and that Sister's there.
Jeez, I had not heard that.
So, I mean, I could run out and go buy that Warcry Warband somewhere else and return it there, but
Yeah, you already got
not
it.
in a hurry to get it done.
For all the Warcry you're playing?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, there it is. But yeah, I painted her up. Very excited about, I think.
you're done painting her.
No. Very excited to be painting her up. I did start. Like, it's not, it's built and painted and got some the early phases of it. And at this point, painting a single sister for me is something that goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Just work's been work.
Yeah.
So when I get home at night, I am happy to see my family and spend some time doing that. And but so that was a recent thing. So I'm really curious. I have no doubt that Colin is going to spend a little more time and energy in
Did you see him
fantastic
doing the head?
Right, and that's
And then
actually what inspired me, because for me that's really like
So much fun.
That's my
I
favorite
agree.
part, is to paint the face. And he was commenting, and a lot of folks were commenting on how they found it very frustrating to
I
work
don't
on.
want to do a whole army of this, and I'm
Right.
like, I could do that. I mean,
Yeah.
he did a fantastic job on that face, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great, and I'm anxious to see it totally finished, because I hadn't seen him post a totally finished picture of her yet.
Yeah.
So I just thought it'd be fun if I did mine up, and very similar color scheme, because that's the color scheme for my sisters.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that would be fun to kind of knock one of those out really quick, and then just similar color schemes and two people's take on a.
So you're doing that red, the crimson kind of.
Yeah, my
color
sisters
scheme.
are they. I play them as Martyred Lady because of their history, and they have the white hair, which is a Martyred Lady thing. That's part of their shtick. But then the all red armor with gold trim because of the 3rd edition Witch Hunter Codex.
Sure.
Had the Witch Hunter Inquisitor on the front, and then the sisters were around him.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he's walking forward with the flame pistol, and that's what color scheme they were, and so I liked that a lot and copied that. The only other thing I've been doing is painting. Shocking as this may be, Blitz Bowl teams.
Yeah. So I saw this one.
You like Blitzball? Really?
A little bit.
Have you played
It's
it?
okay.
I have.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. And you are like playtesting new team rules, and this team is a little excited. I'm gonna redo that, and
Well, I'll be honest. It's been really rad that through the group, the Blitz Bowl group, James Hewitt, who we talked about for Adeptus Titanicus, is the designer for Blitz Bowl, and he's really active on the group, and he's been kind enough to offer feedback on our own
That's amazing.
house rules and saying like, well, I can't. I mean, he can only go so far in what he has to offer, but has kind of offered some feedback and has been pretty consistent with our group about, this looks cool, keep doing it, right on. And
That's cool.
awesome.
so
He's
been
a nice guy.
Yeah. No, and it's I'm shocked how active he is for all the games he's designed in their various community pages. He keeps he must have like a rolling
incredible.
schedule or something to keep up on it, but it's pretty sweet. But the only reason I mentioned the Blitz Bowl Skaven team that I painted up is I got to play with contrast paints again, so to speak. I wanted to do a project where it was contrast paints kind of from start to finish, like really pushed what I felt like they could do. I think they're a great tool. I think they're a really neat tool. I don't know that they offer anything you can't do another way, but when they work well, when they're the right tool for the right job, which is largely going to be high texture kind of things, but the yellow on that Skaven team I did was entirely done with contrast paints, and it was a single coat.
Did you Zenithal Prime?
Yeah, and that's one of the things with it is you do want to have some contrast built underneath it, that it helps it helps what it's already doing, the two playing together.
Yep.
On the flesh, I went ahead and base coated with a kind of more rich, darker tan flesh tone than you normally would. I did a very quick sloppy, just mixed white into it, highlight on, a zenithal by brush zenithal.
Yeah, so you're
highlight.
not using them the way Games Workshop recommend. You're using them the smart way.
And then go a thick coat over that, and it tints the original color you've put down.
Right.
It does shade in all the recesses.
Yeah.
It, in a weird way, it does what the GW washes do, and then some. It's a more aggressive wash.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot of mileage out of it. And I mean, if you could zenithal prime with a couple rattle cans.
Well, I got to tell you, like I saw the undead, army you did, and you did certain portions of that with the contrast paints as well, the cloth and that kind of thing. And in looking at it, it looks incredible. I mean, again, I think in the right large flat surfaces, no. In the right high textured areas, it looks fantastic.
Even then, like the large flat surfaces, you can absolutely use those as a glaze
Through
an airbrush.
Through an airbrush.
You wouldn't want to use them in the traditional brush.
No.
You're going to
You're just gonna get pooling
splotchy,
everywhere.
pooly, nasty mess. Yeah.
Unless you are willing to get in there with, I mean, probably beyond what most hobbyists are using brush size wise. I mean, like
a big flat,
like a 4 or a 5 or an 8.
Still, though, I think the properties of that paint.
If you have to, there's
you try it and you let us know.
I have
On a tank. You've actually used.
I haven't used it on a tank, but I'm convinced you can, and I'll let you know. I'll give it a shot.
I'll give you a tank to try.
I'll do
Like
it.
just seriously.
Because you're going to need a brush that's almost as big as the aperture of the bottle.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to get that volume of paint on and be really mindful of your direction of brush stroke and how you're pulling the paint, I think it's doable.
It almost sounds like more work to go that
That's
way.
where I'm at.
There's like you're getting to a point where it's a law of diminishing returns.
I wouldn't say it's more work. What I would say is there's a level of knowledge of understanding the tools you're working with and how they're going to function that is way beyond a novice level, which is they were designed as like, here's this novice level thing. And I, as Justin said, like, oh, you can use them as a glaze. Well, if you're a novice, the word glaze just right over your head.
Your eyes glazed over.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube, look up glaze miniature. Use the tools. We got the internet.
Mr. Professional Painter.
I'm not, but I'm so many videos out there.
If you just
like, I understand what he's saying, but I'm just saying, like,
but the direction, like how you're loading your brush and the directionality of your brush
pulling the
strokes
pigment in the same direction,
and those kind of things are. But and also, this is coming from somebody who moving away from and is stoked to see what you produced Golden Demon wise. It is a wash painter. Like I love painting fast.
We
and
were
loose
just
with
talking
washes
about that
all
today.
over the freaking place. And I'm happy to let
too,
him.
Man, I love washes.
No, and I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying I like it fast and loose, and like if things get bleed together and get muddy, cool, so be it. I can live with that. And there's a level of precision for doing what you want to do and are doing that's not appropriate for.
Sure. Yep.
And the contrast paints, I continue to be impressed with them. I guess is my rambling punchline to this rambling thing is there's a lot you can do with them beyond kind of how they were advertised. And I think it's pretty well tread ground that the way they rolled them out is probably I think it misled some people about what they are and what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But what they are and what they can do is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's just, are they the right tool for your standard Marine intercessor?
I don't.
No, that's a really tough ask. Like there's actually a lot of things that go into using them and having them look really nice on your basic Marine.
Yeah.
Beyond a certain point. If you just want color on your model and you want it on the table, they do that well.
Yeah.
They do that very well. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that's, I know, non 40K, it will be a theme in this opening content.
That's actually very valid feedback. I mean, as I've been doing the Black Legion guys, I'm kind of looking, do I want to maybe try that contrast here? And I'm like, maybe I'm just going to go the original route.
Well, that segues well into your hobby progress, right?
Because that wasn't intentional, but yeah, I've been, so I mentioned I have everything assembled for the Black Legion list until I went to go through it and I realized I'm missing one plasma gunner. Like I accidentally have too many bolter guys and I should have had an extra plasma guy. So I'm going to have to go back at some point and add an extra plasma guy to the list that I'm making and swap out the bolter guy. But right now I'm just full steam ahead. So I have begun painting the gold trim on all the Black Legion guys. And
Scale 75 for the
that's
win.
dude, you guys tried to tell me, and that stuff
They're
is
metallics.
amazing.
It's sorcery.
Now I love Vallejo metallics as well. They're like, as you were just talking about the contrast paint, like the right tool for the right thing. There are certain Vallejo metallics I really, really like, and I like the way they flow and work. But that Negro gold for scale 75 is the most incredible gold I've ever worked
I have
with.
not purchased that one yet.
It goes. It was Colin who gave me the recipe, and we were kind of looking at what he does, and he used that, and it goes right over black, one pass. Like it's not even hard. And then I'm doing a wash of the Druchii Violet, and then over that the scale 75
Purple plays so well with gold.
and then the scale 75 Elven gold over that. Nice. And it really just is a bright. That's what he did on the Thousand Sun guys there. It just looks fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I've started doing the gold edging. I've been posting my pictures, and it's going very, very quickly, like a lot faster than I expected. Partially because the scale 75 is so good, also because I'm just kind of in that zone. And I just decided I'm going to get 2 or 3 of these guys done. And originally I was like 1 a night. And then I'm like, I could do more than that. And I'm doing like 2 or 3.
Put a show on or something.
Sometimes I'll do like 4. Yeah. And so far I'm up to about 12 guys. I have 5 Terminators. I did 5 squad guys. I've done 2 of the guys in the next set of 10 that I'm doing. So originally I was going to try to do 5 at a time. And now I've just bumped it up to 10 because I'm just blasting through them.
It's got to get done, right? One way or another. Have you tried the technique where, I think we've talked about it on the show, where instead of like doing all the gold trim on like one model and finishing him,
We talked about this.
The 30 seconds at a pop.
yeah, where you do, okay, I'm gonna do all the legs,
I'm going to do all the shoulder pads.
and then you
the
see
right,
that
left shoulder.
progress
So
much.
we talked about this again. Colin, I keep bringing his name up. He was doing his Twitch stream. If you haven't looked at Colin's Patreon, you might want to take a look if you're into painting and stuff. Like he is producing
because he's full time hobbying.
Yeah, and he is producing a lot of content, and it's really, really good stuff. And he does like a Twitch stream, and you can join it and kind of chat with him. You know, he's kind of just rambling, but then as you ask questions in the chat, he'll respond to them. And so we were kind of talking about that in particular. I said, do you do like a whole model, move on to the next model, whole model, move on to the next model, or do you do it? I think it's individual to the person.
It is, yeah.
I originally was like, well, I'll do the legs and then I kind of did one and I was like, I just finished the model and then let's move on to the next model. And so I'm just doing a whole model at a time. And as you go through them, they are different from each other, the Chaos Space Marine models now. But they're not so different that you're not like, and there should be an edging here. Yep, there it is. And so
it becomes
I'm
kind
able
of muscle memory.
Yeah, you're kind of going quickly between, left shoulder, left. I kind of change up the order in which I'm doing if you divide it into 4 sections, like I kind of change up just to make it a little different. But I've certainly, I thought it was going to be this huge tedious thing, and I'm finding that I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm just, like you said, I put some comedy on Netflix. I did screw up one model because I was laughing. Is that the new Dave Chappelle thing? And I was like, oh, damn.
God, so good. Can we talk about that for a minute?
But
Too politically charged.
Yeah, please don't talk about that here. So I am making great progress there. I'm very excited. And as you begin to make progress, we've talked about this before, you build on that momentum. You're like, well, I don't want to lose this momentum. So I'm pretty much tomorrow I'm going to be painting a lot too. Let's see. So I've done that.
I'm just happy you jumped into those Black Legion because you were so long. You're like, I don't know how to do the black.
Took a long time, and then finally
and
I just
then-
settled on what I was.
And you feel like that weight was worth it, yeah?
Yeah, well, I could have done this a lot easier. It was a lot sooner. It was easier than I was building. Like I built it up more in my head, and then when I finally just did, I'm like, I'm happy with this result. I need a faster result than what I was thinking of, and I'm very happy with the way things.
Kid in the cereal aisle every time with paint schemes.
Plus, then
it's
I'm gonna do an oil wash over the whole army as well. So I was already hitting up Doug, and I'm like, you need to come over and walk me through your oil wash process.
Get yourself some nice gloss coat rattle can, man.
Yep. So that all my 1,000 stun stuff that was sitting with Colin for like the last 6 months got delivered because he finished up everything there. So that was like another 10 Zangor. some of the
Leviathan too.
some of the Zangor Bowman, the Leviathan Dreadnought with the I can't remember even the name of the weapon. I
Butcher
put
kit.
on it.
You
like the
put the
Helvern-
Malarfiend guns on it, so it
Yeah.
could be whatever gun you want it to be.
I did it specifically because there's a gun that they don't have actually.
A Graflux Bombard
it's
or
like
something,
the
or
Helvern. I can't remember
some
what it is.
yeah, some 30.
But yeah, I was just like, I'll just put these things on. It looks kind of cool. And
looks great.
I got that. The Zangor Shaman, which he did a great job on that guy too. Just a few different models. Oh, and then the not the Mauler Fiend, the shooting one.
Forge Fiend.
Forge Fiend. Did a Forge Fiend. I can swap out the weapons on that one too.
My ears each must be up to like what 3, 4K.
Look at the size.
No, I just glanced over. It's
Especially when you talk about adding the demons to it. I mean, it's
pretty.
in an apocalypse game. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So, one of the things I've been thinking about with the Black Legion is I was doing the roller stuff that you had taught me, Justin, with the
Sculpey.
the Super Sculpey stuff, and the bases were coming out. They look really great. I'm kind of thinking, well, how do I want to paint them? But the more I looked at, the more I'm like, I wonder if I should just go with the same bases that I'm using for the Thousand Suns. No, you think I should change it up?
I think it's too much gray. I think
Well, those are brown, but
your Thousand Suns bases.
Yep, they're brown.
Okay.
Well, those ones down there that Colin did,
I think
separate.
like
they wound up a
tonally,
little
as long as
grayish.
you're in the same kind of ballpark, you're not going from like a desert base to, you know what I mean?
The bases I've created still look kind of deserty. They just have, I don't know. I'll show you. We can talk about it off air.
My hesitation is because the Black Legion are so dark and
Yeah.
black, and
So what would you recommend for a
I'd want
base
something
color?
that they're
Goblin
gonna stand.
green.
That was
Get
read
out,
my mind.
Justin. Get out.
With sand.
Damn it, I'm fired again.
And take off those sleeves.
White Claws. Done.
Something I've been fiddling with a lot is trying to add more color into my bases.
Yeah.
It's actually Sam Lenz has a great video that he did with the tabletop minion. Uncle Adam.
Many
Uncle
great
Adam.
videos.
Right. He has a bunch. He has one where he
Pachow.
teaches wet blending just on a base.
Yeah.
And it's a great, quick, like, hey, what's wet blending? Well, here's how it is.
Right.
But it's also giving a light effect from the front to the back of the base, which is kind of a fun effect. And I'm not suggesting the light effect, but you can blend in warm tones and cool tones into your bases really easily. And once you dry brush over them, they visually disappear, but
they're
their
still there.
effect is still there.
Kind of like Austin's done with his custodes. He's
Yeah.
added the purple
Yeah.
kind of nuances to his gray concrete, and just shooting a little color in here and there, which you can do with an airbrush,
Yeah.
or a brush. But I agree with Pez. Like, it adds so much.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
let's.
so they look.
I'll use your
from an eye test distance. That's a very similar gray to the highlight you used on your Black Legion. So your eye is going to pull all that together, and it's going to wash out. Where you could use that same whatever the final highlight is you're using on your bases, use that at the end, and they'll still look copacetic. But whatever the other undertones are, use something that's going to cause some visual discordance between the Black Legion guy.
There are
and
some of
his
those
feet.
bases that look more gray than the others because Colin didn't use the
same
recipe
one.
I gave him at that time, and I'll show you
Okay.
the brown ones, and then we could talk about that. But I do want to probably go a warmer tone.
Right.
So let me.
You could also experiment with my secret sauce, my Woodland Scenics
Okay.
Earth
Yeah.
technique, that warm brown green. Like, it's so easy and just adds.
I mean, I like. Let's talk.
Yep.
Like we'll look at it. We'll come back and discuss. I don't want to go on forever about this. The other thing is I've made a couple purchases. I said the 2 red paint handles, so I have 5, and then I went back and bought a pack of 5 because they sell them in packs of 5 now. They're just so useful. Those
And of course, they
handles.
go faster.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what people keep
It's
making
just-
that
I know,
joke. So
I
I'm
know.
like, all right. Maybe
You can't resist.
if they did, I'd keep swapping out models and putting them in there. You know? But man, I like those handles. Like they're
handy.
just hey,
But
well done.
it's-
But they are very useful. And it just, I mean, yes, you can glue them to cork or whatever, cheaper, but these have been nice. It's been nice to work with them. So
And Games Workshop prices, they're basically free.
No, they're I don't
They
know.
are.
They're reasonable.
they're like
they're,
$8 a pop.
Yeah. It's a great tool. I don't have one because I haven't run into anything where I wanted
Yeah.
to use one, But every time I see one, I'm like, that's awesome. Those are freaking cool.
And then I bought the Book of Ruin, the Necromunda Book of Ruin.
Oh my God.
I'm so diving in soon. Doug's been prodding me.
Yes,
and he
wants
posted
to run a
posted those
campaign.
photos, and I was like,
This book, man.
Damn you, Doug. He got us both, man.
This book
Both
is
of
so
us.
good, Justin. If you begin looking through this book, you're gonna get distracted because just the artwork in this book is fantastic.
I can get distracted for a day and paint up a Necromunda gang.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
There you go.
Wait, back up.
Yeah.
That picture of the old, remember the Forge World Chaos Sorcerer, the demagogue?
Yeah.
That he's floating?
I have him.
And that's basically that and the
Just
Blackstone Fortress dude had a baby.
Yeah,
Yeah, that awesome.
Yeah, the fact that chaos is introduced
Just the
in Necromunda
artwork in here is just incredible. But not only that, they've had chaos. They brought in stuff from the White Dwarf where they had Gene Stealer cults. So now they have Gene Stealer cults in here too. I don't know.
I could realistically play this game with models I already own.
Yes.
I don't have to even buy anything. Cultists,
Probably
and
in some cases. Oh yeah.
I've got a
the
bunch of
cultist stuff
cultists.
you
I've
could-
got all the Forge World Renegade models.
Yep.
Like I'm good.
Yep.
Damn
so I am super impressed with the Book of Ruin, and it may have spawned another project for me.
It's Necromunda, man. It's like 15 models. It's a
You know
squad.
what? Stay focused on the Black Legion. I want to finish that because I know Sisters are coming out soon too, and then I'm gonna
Are they?
struggle for 8 months trying to figure out what color I'm gonna do them.
And Adon's not
really-
buying any of them.
I really want to do white armor with purple cloaks and stuff.
White and purple.
Yep.
Can't go wrong.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Ivory and purple.
And gold.
Ivory. Marble, ivory, and purple.
ooh, that would look cool.
Yeah.
I may
'cause
come to
yellow-
you as
yellow and
a
purple.
Slanesh painter. Like those are kind of the basic colors of that. So
It's funny too. I'm looking at some of those models and I'm like, I want to do some Slaneshi sisters. So rad.
get out of here.
Right.
So anyway, that's
phrasing. Are we not doing phrasing
That's
anymore?
been me. It's been a very productive couple weeks since we recorded last for me. So I feel like I'm moving forward finally on the Black Legion. So I got shut up about them sitting there. Anyway, let's go on to games played. I'll go first. Yeah, I haven't played anything. I've been really looking forward to the holidays getting here because I'm going to be able to play some stuff. We were supposed to play Adeptus Titanicus this coming Sunday, but it's sounding like that might get canceled because Josh is spearheading it and he's got some family thing that's come up. So.
Next time you play that, ping me. I'm dying to. Well, not dying.
Yeah,
I
come
don't
on
need
over,
another
man.
project. Just shoot me. I want to see how that game's played.
Oh, it's
nothing but good.
fantastic.
Everybody I know is jumping in.
Well, sort of. Jody's
son
not
of a-
jumping in.
God damn it. I bought the toys. I built them. They're primed. I am hopeful that over the holidays, and I'm not making any kind of commitment, but I am hopeful over the holidays that I'll start that process.
Since I got rid of the commitment section, it's just like I kind of rolled that into this, into the hobby section. Really, is I'm just continuing to focus on the Black Legion for now. Like I want to get all that gold stuff done
Keep it rolling
by the
man.
next time we record.
Progress begets progress. Games played. I'm going to keep my theme going. I played some Blitzball, shocking as that may be. But I actually want to talk about two other things. One came up on the last episode.
Did you play this?
I did indeed play some Gaslands.
I
Do you
wanna try
like
this
Mad Max?
Who
Do
doesn't?
you like driving cars real fast? Do you like shooting
Did
at
you
your
play the
friends'
new-
cars when they're driving
The
fast?
new edition?
Do they explode?
They do. And then they respawn and you do it again like freaking Twisted Metal. It is a hoot. It is simple. It is easy. It
Twisted
is
Metal,
cheap.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
How much does a Matchbox car in a few minutes to paint it cost you?
Yeah.
So as mentioned many times before, we have
saw
the
this at the
Tabletop
Opticon. I saw it.
Wargamer
I saw
Club
it. Yeah.
going at my high school. And one night that we wanted to play, and Matt brilliantly said he already had the Gasland stuff and was like, hey, a kid shows up and goes, what do I do? We hand him a Matchbox car and start showing him how to paint. And so Matt and I had cars from way back, so we got to play it finally. It is fun. It is silly. It is light. You pick it up in a few minutes. My biggest thumbs up to the game is it is frankly more about driving than shooting.
Yeah.
How hard are you going to push through that corner? How fast are you going to jam
Well,
on
listen,
the engine?
I was a huge fan of Car Wars back in high school, so this is really up my alley.
It's really enjoyable, really fast, really.
I almost picked up the new rules because I have the old ones, but I almost picked up the new rules. And I know this isn't 40K related, but man, I really, for a cheap game that really costs nothing to play and,
I just happen to have a few Matchbox cars at home.
Oh, do you?
I'm just saying.
That's what happens when you have a boy.
I have a 7-year-old boy. We're good.
My
I'm
little,
gonna borrow these, Jackson. I'll
You
bring
might
them
never
back.
see them again.
They're not going to
Dude,
look the
how-
same, but
but they'll have guns and spikes and stuff. He's gonna be
He's all
stoked
for
by
that.
that.
I'll have a crazy ice cream truck.
There you go, with a clown on top and machine guns. Yeah, my
You get a thumbs up for that.
circa 95 Mustang has las guns, Imperial Guard las guns strapped to it. It looks and it totally looks great. Speaking of other things that aren't 40K, I also played Warcry for the first time.
Now, you've painted up your whole Warcry band.
Painted up a whole
And the terrain.
all the terrain, and it matches my demon table. So there is a vague
Crossover there.
vague, very small crossover.
take it.
My note here just says, what a wonderful and silly game. It is a dice game. If you are going in wanting some deep commitment out of Warcry and you're thinking Necromunda, stop thinking Necromunda. Are you thinking Kill Team? Stop thinking Kill Team.
Which is lighter than Kill Team.
Oh, much lighter than Kill Team.
Interesting.
It is going to be swingy. So if you're not okay with swingy, you could because you random draw your deployment, you random draw your mission, you random draw your, and the games we played, some of them were not very competitive because of the way it laid out. But I will say they weren't competitive because of the way they laid out with the war bands that were involved.
So they've not built a tournament game here.
There's tournament rules and you could do it, but if you play the drawing from the decks out of the box, set up and play, no.
Okay,
No, it is.
interesting.
But the way the campaign works, that's not as big of a problem.
Interesting.
Because the campaign, your warband's campaign runs independent than everybody else's.
Gotcha.
Everybody's trying to meet their own needs.
Gotcha.
And for Dawn's comment last time about like, hey, if you want to play a campaign with a war game like that, why not just track your own games? Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. And if they're tracking theirs, cool. But this is literally built that way.
Oh,
that you
interesting.
just track what your war band's doing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's just if you are Warcry curious, for the cost of picking up a box, and if somebody is around to play with you in a rule book, I mean, you're under $100, I think, total there, or right around $100. It's fun. It is beer and pretzels. It's light.
Models are phenomenal.
The models are freaking
They're
cool.
beautiful, yeah.
They play very
I
differently.
got the snake guys. What are they? Do you remember the name?
The Gladiator Eve,
Yeah,
Sneaky,
yeah.
not Slanesh, but Slanesh.
Yeah, they really
Definitely not Conan related at all.
Right. And I did the Iron Golems, which are the I thought they were like Cornate, but they're actually super durable is their shtick.
Okay.
And then Matt had the Corvus Corex, the bird
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Who do they get around? But they really they felt really different. Like everybody felt noticeably different. The initiative mechanics, cool. It's its own unique, very unique game experience. So, I figured, hey, I know it's not 40K. And the last thing is I haven't played a whole lot of 40K anything in a while. And I was feeling the hobby shame because knowing I was going to sit here and talk into a microphone about 40K that I haven't played. And then I was like, I'm hobbying almost every night. I'm playing almost every weekend. I'm just not getting to play 40K right now. And I do miss it. I mean, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? If you're enjoying your hobby, enjoy your hobby, man. And we recently had a post.
We've been flying that flag, you and I both, all of us, for a long while.
But there was just recently a comment on the forums, and this isn't an Elite Toys thing, but somebody was, and I apologize, poster that I don't have it right off the top of my head, about like their friend, every time he paints a different model, and they don't match or anything like that. And he was like, is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
And it was
That's
like,
what he said.
and that was overwhelming. The response is like, man, if you're enjoying it, you do it. If you want to start playing, maybe adjust that. But if you're just enjoying painting to paint, go nuts. Why not? And so, gentle listeners, I will be back to the all things bolters and chainswords soon as the Sisters' new releases.
We're about to ramp up.
Oh, I cannot wait for the new.
yeah.
I won't be
Vehicles?
getting new Battle Sisters, but the new vehicles. Oh, baby. All right, Justin, save us from our failings.
I'll try. So while I was in Kansas, after
Well, listen, you're not.
Not
I can't do
Kansas
it. I
anymore.
can't do
Sorry, somebody had to say that. How did the joke get that far?
I tried finding some slippers that they didn't fit. I was actually able to play Imperial Aeronautica. That's the one. Imperial Aeronautica. I played my first couple games and thoroughly enjoyed it.
This is the new
This is
version.
the new version.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna do a show about this.
It was fun.
I have the old version over there. Trevor Goddard sent me 2 of the books. I paid for shipping. I got the books, the cards, everything. for
Easy
it.
to pick up.
And
Super fun, yeah.
We're gonna talk about the differences between the two systems. pluses and minuses. But yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the new system. I'm really interested.
And we just did simple little 3-on-3 fighter battles, you know.
Sure.
But it was super
quick,
fun.
right?
Yeah, Nathan walked me through it, and we had a blast.
Fast to pick up.
Really nice game store too. I forget the name there in Kansas, but it was.
So somewhere in Kansas, there's a cool game store.
Way too much. We'll post that in the show notes. Just they had so much stuff. It was almost like a little game castle.
Oh, cool.
Out there, like scale 75 paints. I bought a bunch of those, and yeah, they had everything. So that was super fun. And then other than that, I only managed to get a couple games kind of back to back in one night against my buddy Bob and his Golden Boys,
Good old Bob,
his Custodes, and of course the Vindicator.
I saw the
Assassin.
pictures you posted. That stuff. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, we always aim for all painted games. Yep. Always. I hate doing unpainted proxy nonsense, and nobody got time for that.
Nope.
So we played ITC missions. The first game, I was absolutely just not in the right ITC mindset, and I think it was about turn 2 where it was like, yeah, I see where this game's going. He's like, I do too. My mind wasn't in that. Like, my models need to be here and focusing on those secondaries. So we decided to call it pretty quick. He would have handily beaten me. He also made a couple long bomb charges with those jet bike units that he rolled boxcars, and it was like, oh no. And I placed my characters horribly, and it was just a bad game.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yep, ring rust. So we decided to re-rack.
Can't paint your way out of that one, Joe.
Nope. But you can't have a cool guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to kick your teeth in.
Let's start over.
Let's start over.
Yeah.
So we played a second game, and it was way more close, and it got late, so we didn't really finish it, but probably would have gotten it. But man, those Custodes are so tough, even against Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, Traitorous Knights. This was the first game I was actually able to use my Knights, which was super fun, because I had painted up a couple Armigers, or whatever they're called.
War Dogs,
thank you. Painted up a couple of those, and I had my Chaos Knight from the CK class, of course, with all his new weapons. And so anytime you use a new army, you're always like stratagems.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it all out. Yeah,
you're trying to figure it out, but got a pretty. I tried to keep it simple, like we always talk about. Just focus on the few stratagems you want to use. Try to keep it simple, stupid in your first few games, and that helped a lot. But it was nice being able to use the Knights. They put out so much damage.
What point level were you playing this at?
2000.
Okay,
it was 2000 ITC. Had the triple alliance of Plague Bearers and my Death Guard Vanguard. So I have my 10 Blightlord Terminators.
Nice. With
the two Foul Blight Spawn and a Demon Prince.
Yeah.
Which is just fun. It's just having those 10 Terminators on the field, just saying, deal with me.
Yeah, they do
like
say that.
You think that thin green wall of Poxwalkers is hard to kill?
No, it's all.
Can't wait.
None of it dies.
None of it dies. Especially when you have a 4-up invul. So really fun game, super bloody, always fun with Bob. And yeah, cool. we got to get him over here for some games.
Sure,
y'all got to meet him.
It occurs to me, and that this wasn't anywhere later in my show notes, of man, fielding a knight is a great way to avoid new model syndrome. And for those who don't know new model syndrome, if you paint and add something cool and new to your army, it will be the first thing to die when you play. I don't know if that's a universal term or not. That's like, I fielded this awesome new thing, but a knight, no, it's gonna make it for a while. It's going to hang out.
He usually is, yeah, unless you roll like I do, you know. Like I think he died both games, but you know, he
can die, just not like turn 1.
Work. Yeah. And fielding those 2 Foul Blight spawns, oh yeah. Fun. Like one of them
they didn't
it was a full on just curry happened all over.
All right.
All over that Gladius tank.
On that note,
great.
Let's take a short break.
Let's do it.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you're back, Justin.
I'm sorry, Carl. I can't help myself.
We'll take a short break. We're going to come back and we're going to start into our show of force, Engines of Faith and Ruin. Yes. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Big Nasty B from Life After the Cover Safe, and I'm at a mall talking to strangers about Table War. Table War develops some of the most innovative products for the miniature wargaming and hobby industry.
And I develop pictures.
That's great. They develop things like the Fat Mat.
Who's Matt, and why is he so fat?
Well, first off, Matt is not a person. The Fat Mat is a tabletop gaming surface, and with over 40 different designs, Table War's Fat Mat has become a community standard.
I got the Surface Pro. It's like 10 inches. By the way, I'm meeting my friend Simbun. Do you know what that is?
No, but I do want to tell you about the Table War Tower case line.
Oh man, towers are so huge.
Well, it's not that kind of tower. It's the original modular, all-in-one display, storage, and transport system for all your tabletop miniatures.
Wow, you're really smart. What's your relationship status?
Well, it's complicated, but you know what isn't complicated?
Chili dogs.
This is true, but also the Macromat.
Oh, geez, not that guy again.
The Macromat is a one-of-a-kind, innovative photography backdrop, perfect for collectibles, hobby miniatures, and small works of art. Its durability, portability, and functionality in one inexpensive product.
I wasn't paying attention to what you just said, but do you validate parking?
No, I do not. But if you want more information, head over to tablewar.com and check them out.
We are back, and we're going to be talking about Show of Force, Engines of Faith and Ruin. We're talking both the Imperial and Chaos Knights.
Two Show of Forces in one.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Justin.
It's two for one. So it is a little bit of I think, going to be a lengthy episode, but well, that's not true. People rarely complain about the long episodes, but this is interesting. I mean, I felt like I don't think they each kind of needed their own Show of Force. I felt like we could combine these because there are a number of similarities here.
Especially the thickness of the different books, when you pick up one versus the other.
When you can't tell one story without the other.
Right.
I mean, even less so than Trader Marines.
Right.
You can't really tell, like, oh, this is the Chaos Knight story.
Right.
No, most of the stories, the Imperial Knight story. Like, they don't, they're not that different.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Though the models.
Oh, baby.
We'll talk about that too. We're going to talk about everything here. So let's start off with pre-Codex origins.
Yeah, so the where did knights come from at all? Their earliest traces of them that I'm aware of, and they could be earlier, and I know, beautiful community, you'll blast
Correct us
me
where we're
with
wrong.
both barrels of "you're wrong" when I am wrong here. But the models in my brain around circa 90, Jess Goodwin put out some really cool epic scale little knights.
Tiny knights.
I'm sorry,
little
what
tiny
name?
knights.
Who was his name?
I can't say them anymore. I'm glad somebody else is.
Here.
Every
You can
episode.
say it for you, man.
Boom.
Jess Goodwin. Because if it was cool and it was in the 80s, it was Jess Goodwin.
Yeah.
And if it's cool and it's in 2019, it's just a good one.
That guy could read me the phone book, and I would just need a nice little glass of bourbon, and I'd be a happy man.
Telling you.
Anyway.
Foxcast. Foxcast, baby.
Where did this go?
I don't.
We started talking Jess Goodwin, and then you distracted us. I was
right.
just going to move on.
Jess Goodwin.
I forgot Carl was here. We
1990.
had a moment.
That was good. Why don't you shh over there with your command center.
You guys are getting closer and closer to each other over there.
But yeah, because the chairs roll.
Just going.
There's some
So
Icy's romantic going on here. All right.
So he made these models, and they didn't originally have rules in the very first edition of Adeptus Titanicus, which came out in the mid to late 80s. It was the box game, styrofoam buildings, knights fighting knights. There may have been some mentions of
Titans
Titans. Thank you.
I was going to
sorry.
say, Knights
Titans
were future lead.
Yeah, Titans fighting Titans was that game.
Yep.
And there was some mentions of knights that I recall, but I no longer have that set and have no regrets about no longer having that set to confirm 100% that they're mentioned there. But once Epic Space Marine, the second edition of Epic came out, and then certainly once Titan Legions around 94 came out, which had the Imperialis Titan and the Mega Gargant, knights were featured as plastic kits in that set.
That's right.
And that was where they kind of really came to the fore as their own unique faction, and their story and their fleshing out of their background really came into its own was around the Titan Legion box set that had the Mega Gargant. Now, this is all epic scale gaming.
Yeah.
So until it was a long time, and for a long time they lived in the world of, wouldn't it be cool if they made a knight for 40K?
Right.
And that was just this, some other companies made some things and they were out there, but it was a long gap before we finally
Big
get
time.
to 40K proper
And
Imperial
come
Knights.
out. Yeah, which is a huge deal when they come out. They come out in 6th edition, March 2014. So you're talking 20 years
Roughly.
difference between those two. And I had never heard of Knights before because, Titan Legions and all that was BC. It was before Carl
we're
started playing this.
Oh, that
PCO.
didn't just happen.
in the Astronomicon.
That's an old joke in my family.
Right in the Astronomicon.
Were there no Forge World releases
No.
prior to the plastic kit?
Oh, great question, actually. Yes, there was. So that's a great point.
There was?
Almost certainly there was. I believe that they started releasing the resin knights for Horus Heresy prior to the plastic knight kit coming out for 40K. I believe.
I think you're right.
Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. And I don't remember the first one. Castigator, I believe, was one of the first few, and then the Lancer came out, and there was kind of variations in there. But the plastic knight kit, they're all it's kind of
roughly
running,
around the same, like within the same decade.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know what I mean? Like,
Well, within I would say the same year,
Couple
2 years,
years,
yeah. But the plastic knight kit for 40K
huge,
is a
yeah.
huge deal, and people are very excited about them. And I remember distinctly when they came out, people balked at the price point because I think it came out at $120, $140 initially,
around 100,
somewhere
yeah,
around
yeah.
there. Which, interestingly enough, was very close in price to the Eldar Wraith Knight in price because kind of roughly the same size. I think it was slightly more expensive than that, but you know, this is around the period where people are very frustrated with Games Workshop as well.
Yeah,
And
that
It was not a good time for
the Dark Ages,
Games
the
were-
long night.
It's hard to call it.
It was rough.
Anyway,
But we're here.
I played all through this. I was enjoying it all through. It was funny because all through 6th and 7th edition, we kept saying, look at all this stuff that's coming out. This is the golden age. This is the golden age. You know, you think that's the golden age. That was the bronze age. We're here in the golden age now. And who knows where we're going to be when 9th edition ends up coming out. We'll be like, that 8th edition was terrible. 9th edition fixed all the problems. Who knows? Anyway.
We have terrain rules.
The point.
This is amazing.
That's all I'm asking for. So anyway, the point being, they came out and they made kind of an immediate impression. And one of the issues, which we'll talk about later, really had to do with how they fit within armies and the change of how super heavies fit into the game in 6th and 7th edition. So 7th edition, so they get a codex in 6th edition. And at that time, they also come out with like a book, and I cannot find this anywhere online. I know it's sold out immediately, but it was like a hardback book about all of the heraldry of the knights and all this stuff. And it came out at the same time the codex did, but it sold out like super fast.
Wow. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
tons of Hummel plates everywhere.
I don't think so. I think it was more like, you know, the Adeptus, I have it over there, the book that shows all the Space Marine, you know,
The insignia
heraldry and
Astartes.
insignia. Yes. I think it was similar to that, and it had a little background in it, but I haven't been able to find. But I'm positive this book exists. Anyway, 7th edition comes out relatively quickly, and 7th edition Imperial Knights Codex comes out almost a year after the 6th edition one does. So May 2015, that one comes out, and then in June of 2017, we have our current one, which is the 8th edition version of the Imperial Knights Codex. Now, just recently, 2 years after that, in August of 2019, we finally see the Chaos Knights Codex, which took a lot of people by surprise, come out. And this is really kind of the first foray for Chaos Knights. Now, in between this time, Forge World had released a kit that allowed you to convert this
Great kit.
knight to Chaos
beautiful
Knights.
kit.
Yep, I have one painted up over there.
Yep.
But the interesting thing was, it's almost as soon as Imperial Knights came out, people were like, "We're the Chaos ones," and they started chaosifying their knights and kit bashing stuff, and some of that stuff looked amazing.
Yep.
But until now, we haven't had rules for the actual Chaos Knights, and those came out, as I said, August 2019.
Yes, we're always, as Chaos players, we're used to this abuse.
Jesus, you know,
We're used to this abuse.
look, everybody with the Space Marines feel abused,
It just makes us more bitter.
And you
It
know
helps us
whenever-
forge that narrative.
and you know, whenever if a Space Marine is players complaining about not getting toys, you're like,
Really,
come on.
really.
Come on. All right, so let's talk about knights in the history of 40K, like kind of where they come from, what they do, you know, where all of a sudden are these things showing up from, and where did they originally come from? So the first night houses are established shortly after humanity's kind of going out into the stars. This is before the long night, if you will. So humanity is spread around the stars, and they begin. There's all these colonists, and they're trying to colonize these worlds, and there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work to be done, and a lot of hostile environments.
Yes, but you got to cut down a lot of trees. You got to, maneuver through difficult terrain and all this stuff. So they end up using an STC to build knights, originally as kind of workhorses and some defense stuff there, but primarily for workhorses on planets to help
terraforming and lifting heavy things.
Right.
And what's great about that is one of the things is that going back almost to BattleTech is the impracticality of a war machine that is bipedal.
That's
ridiculous. Is absurd.
It's ridiculous
and embarrassing. But when you think about this story, it almost makes sense. Almost. That why are they humanoid? Well, because they wanted them to be laborers. So the best way to proxy over of like, well, how do we have them do all these different tasks on a huge scale? We'll just make giant humans.
Right.
So in a weird way, the STC of like, we can mass produce this humanoid thing that we don't know what the terrain will look like. We don't know what the conditions will be like. We don't know what a wheeled vehicle or something wouldn't be as adaptable as a bipedal humanoid, which I think is this fascinating.
Yeah, you have to think about all these different landscapes that these things are having to climb over. And
in a weird way, it becomes a reasonable answer at that point. It's still like, well, why not hover technology if it's STCs? This was back at the height of technology.
Right.
They could have... That's not important.
That's not important right now because
the rule of cool is winning.
Is we have to, as Justin said, we have to fight against these hostile alien creatures too, and we've landed on this planet. And fortunately, this chain sword works really good for cutting down trees, but it also works really good for cutting up Xenos scum that are on the planet that we've now tried to take over. So, the ships that the colonists arrive and they turn them into fortresses and that kind of thing. And they build these, the standard template construct technologies used to build these knights that then are used for not only labor, like mining and all that stuff, but also for defense of the colonists.
I like that some of the colonists too had to like break down the ships, like melt them down to actually build a lot of these STC constructs, like there's no getting off this planet.
Right.
Like we're here. We have to melt this thing down and make all this stuff. And we're here. We can't get off.
Yeah.
And
so
we're committed.
And so as things happen, the people who were skilled at operating these knights, are looked up to for protection from the other colonists, and ultimately end up becoming like these elite warriors amongst the colonists, and end up kind of forming these organizations that rule the colonists.
Becomes very feudal. A feudal system ensues, right?
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the thrones mechanicum, the pilot seat that the knights use to control the knight itself.
The Matrix.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's not an easy thing. To bond with the knight, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But so it's not just anybody that can kind of jump into one of these things.
Right, which adds to the almost manifest destiny of why they become the noble house, or they're these heroes, the humans that pilot these machines.
Right. And then you have even there like a hierarchy in these knight houses that start coming out, and they focus on different things, like the lower echelon knights are really around doing the labor and blasting apart rocks and mining and that kind of thing, and then the upper echelon are about defending and fighting for the survival of the colonists. So so anyway, as this continues, the planets over which they kind of rule, over which the knight houses rule, grow kind of insular. Rejecting new advancements in technology, and kind of really rely on these traditions that they've built into these night houses. And the night worlds begin to kind of diverge from the rest of humanity because they kind of isolate themselves from them a bit. eventually, a rogue trader militant, actually, by the name of Jeffers, discovers a night world named Crisis for the first time, and he realizes that these night houses could be really valuable allies for the Emperor's army. So now we've gone through kind of the old night section as humanity gets kind of separated from each other. And the night houses evolve over this period of time, kind of just sticking to themselves. But then as the Emperor begins to explore, the first guys out there are really these rogue traders kind of exploring the galaxy. He comes across this and says, hey, these night guys might be really handy to have around for this expansion.
They're not just like heavy lifters, right?
Right.
They can actually do some damage.
And he reports back to the administratum, and they agree, oh yeah, these guys are going to be really, really helpful. So they start kind of discovering that there's thousands of these night worlds out there during the height of the Dark Age, and they go out and try to make contact with them.
I think one of the great things about the story that's developed around the Knights is that they do bridge that gap of the Dark Age of technology from the age of technology with their STCs, and that they are this height of design and engineering. And then they go through the Dark Age, and as you said, they become insular in a weird way that becoming insular grimdarks them. Yeah. So they get these weird Gothic traditions, and then we come out the other side and we've lost all these houses, but those that remain are this very much their own unique thing that the Emperor goes looking for. That deep legacy that they have, I think, is this fascinating thing of their story that, why haven't we seen a lot? Well, there aren't a lot of them. Well, but why are they so powerful if they're so cool? Well, because their technology dates back to back when technology was strong. Like it's very thoughtful in the way it all works together, which I think is always nice when a air quotes new faction shows up.
Right. Because it's difficult to put a new faction into 40K without then explaining, well, if this is a galaxy spanning empire, how have we not seen this before?
Right.
And I've talked about this in the past, but Graham McNeil wrote a series of books. I think it was Graham that wrote them about the Mechanicum going out and exploring. Like there's like an explorer fleet that goes out to like the far edge of the galaxy. And that was the first time in reading one of those books that I really got a sense for just how big the galaxy actually is, even to 40K.
It's easy to lose sight of, right?
This is ginormous. Yeah. I mean, of course there could be something out there that they haven't found yet because there's billions and billions of planets, and yes, there's gajillions of people, but inevitably there's things that people haven't discovered yet. So let's talk a little bit, because things are going to diverge here pretty soon. But first, let's talk about Loyalist Knights, because as we talked about at the beginning, you kind of can't talk about one without the other.
Right.
But the story continues here, but this is really, it's going to go a little further, and then we'll see that divergence. But most of the night houses are kind of associated with Forge Worlds. They're associated with the Mechanicum and with Forge Worlds. And they kind of return and begin fighting alongside like Forge World Titan legions and that kind of thing, because they fit a perfect hierarchy in those Titan legions.
Right, and the weaponry that the Knights use, that makes perfect sense, right? Where are they going to go to rearm and get that technology advanced and repaired? Well, the Mechanicum is the only place in the modern Imperium that has it.
Yep.
Yeah, when you're a big robot, it's good to be close to a Forge World.
Seems like it would be a good idea.
For sure. For sure. So the Mechanicum of Mars actually, through the political machinations that go on with the Imperium and everything, they kind of establish their dominance for the right to exploit these night worlds. The Mechanicum at the time has a tremendous amount of influence over over the empire, because the emperor needs them for travel and whatnot, so they can kind of exert their authority a little bit, and they basically say, well, these should all fall under our purview, and so for the most part they do, and so at the time of the Great Crusade, you have surviving night worlds that have been discovered, and some of them have kind of devolved a bit into these, feudal aristocratic societies, the tech priests kind of come and settle amongst them, and then establish contact for the Forge World and kind of bring them into the fold. Hey, we can start to repair some of these things that are damaged, and we can help you with some of this technology and reload your weapons and this kind of thing. And so they kind of begin to make this a symbiotic type relationship.
You might have some materials, some ores and things we can take from your planet, but we'll make sure your robots are nice and sparkly clean, right?
Right. We're going to take those ores from your planet.
Well, and the other thing for the AdMech is this is that there's still remnants of STC on these planets, which
For
is
sure.
their kind of holy grail.
That's true.
So they're able to piece together, it is, well, the Knights are gaining plenty of benefit. It isn't that the Mechanicus isn't without its needs being met here.
Right.
That not only are they getting those resources, but that holy grail quest for a complete STC is still a part.
Yeah.
And
they
the
may
Knights
not
are-
even know how to use the STC anymore.
Right. And the Knights are one of the best indicators
Right.
that's still in existence.
But you're right, though, Justin. Like a big selling point there is the Mechanicum comes in and says, well, you guys only have a few operational Knights left. Like we can repair all those ones that don't work anymore. We can help you, maintain all this stuff. And you're going to owe us fealty for that.
Yep.
I mean, these lords are like, yeah, sure. That sounds great. Yeah. Like more Knights under my command.
Which you can imagine
It's an easy
a
selling
lot of
point.
these guys are obviously filled with pride, and it probably wasn't easy for a lot of these guys to kind of like give into that.
Yeah.
There's so much pride when you read the lore behind. They're knights, right?
Yeah.
Knights are just stoic and
Full of themselves.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was lots of wars that happened, and it wasn't an easy transaction, but it needed to happen because a lot of these Forge World or these knight houses were left with a few suits left, and
Yeah, and they're falling. They're kind of falling apart.
Falling
They have
apart,
it-
yep.
And so they also gain from the Mechanicum technology, and their worlds kind of return to a technologically sophisticated world, whereas before they literally could be living in
like
castles. at this
a
point.
3-up invulnerable save.
Yeah,
that sounds
I'll
good.
take that. So now I want to talk a little bit about Chaos Knights, because what ends up happening is, we all know, the Horus Heresy occurs. Knights have joined the Mechanicum in the Great Crusade,
Mechanicum, yep.
and they've gone out into the galaxy conquering in the Emperor's name, or the Omnissiah's name. Same thing in this case. And of course, half the Legion, the Chaos Space Marine Legions, fall. The galaxy begins to burn.
Yes.
But along with that, the Mechanicum splits.
Right.
And you now have the Dark Mechanicum. And so it's very interesting why some of these knight houses, which are so based on loyalty and rules and traditions, fall. And there's a number of reasons why they fall, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of people thought the knights, the pilots themselves, were kind of immune to the effects of chaos because they're so bound to the throne that controls the knights, and
So much so that like when people even talk about a knight falling, they're executed, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I saw this chaos note bowl through the brain. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, but the interesting thing is when they're melded with the machine spirit of the knight, like
Right.
it changes who they are.
Right.
Almost some of the machine spirit actually goes into them. So, I mean, it's really a super symbiotic relationship. So they thought, well, it's not possible for this to happen.
Turns out.
We know better, though.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Us Chaos players know a lot better than that. So the initial knights that fall to Chaos are the ones that had allied themselves with Forge Worlds that fell. And the thing is that their loyalty to their oaths that they had made forced them, because this was how they thought, like, I cannot break this oath. They're doing this. And they would begin to like justify to themselves why the actions they took were righteous or okay. And the Dark Mechanicum would basically, taint these pilots and the equipment, and kind of drag them along with them down this dark
And
path.
once that taint is in, it just spreads through the shell.
Yep.
And into that throne mechanicum.
So the next thing you know, people are starting to see like these Chaos Rune Mark Knights like walking, and fighting for Horus and his forces as well. Additionally, there were knight houses that made oaths to Space Marine legions that fell, and now they don't, much like a Space Marine can't conceive of at this time of another Space Marine turning into an enemy. They can't conceive of breaking an oath.
Right.
That's just who they are. Not to say that some haven't, but that is kind of their bread and butter.
Some of these knights swore allegiance to a certain Marine legion, and no matter what they do, right?
Yep,
they're going to follow them.
And so those Space Marine Trader legions that fell, they kind of followed them down that path of damnation as well. And then some just kind of slowly succumbed to corruption over these long campaigns that they fought on the side of the Imperium.
Right.
Like the constant battle and butchery and killing.
The classic renegade.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, all that grim dark gets you.
Yep. And then, and some of these that, turned to chaos, like turned immediately on their brother. I mean, you're seeing kind of the mirror of what's going on across the rest of the Imperium at this point. And so, as I was saying, those knights that kind of succumb to just, it's almost like battle fatigue. Like they just get, I don't know how to describe it, but like as they get more involved in the slaughter and killing, and it just becomes their norm. And then the next thing you know, they've kind of tipped over a tipping point, and they can't see the difference between killing all these civilians versus killing those.
Yeah, I think it's one of the interesting things when you look at the Chaos and Imperial Knights, is it like it's never like a black and white thing. Like there's always these little reasons and excuses they give you for why a reason's a Dreadblade or an Iconoclast or Chaos or Imperial, right?
Yep.
They all have like this foundation of honor and this and that, but like they all have their individual little nuanced stories of why they're going the path. It's just not black and white.
It isn't. And I think it's actually a really clever way that they explain why these knights fall. The oath thing is really kind of speaks to me, right? I mean, like everybody can kind of be tricked into falling or whatever, but these guys are like, well, we've made.
Yeah, the chivalric code.
We're stuck between a rock and a hard place, so we just keep going down this path. And then the next thing you know, the Mechanicum is like, performing these horrible experiments on the pilots of the knights. I mean, they think some of the knights are not even piloted by humans anymore, maybe potentially just demons, right? I mean, but the
good ones.
Yeah. But the experiments that they're performing on these guys are just horrific. And, by the time anything gets realized, like it doesn't matter that it's realized, like they're already in for a penny, in for a pound at that point.
Yep.
So let's talk about bonding with the thrones. It's called the Ritual of Becoming. You want to talk about it a little bit, Justin?
Yeah. So basically, like, I guess we'll go Imperial first, right? So when
you have to go there first.
Yeah, you should go there first. So when a youth of 18 becomes 18, basically is brought into this room and like matrixed into this throne, and is basically like there's like a bunch of thrones sitting there, right? A bunch of thrones, but basically they're clipped in, and they basically like commune with all these very almost kind of like Eldari kind of spirit stone, infinity circuit kind of a thing where it's a test, right? Like they have to survive the night, and they're being tested basically, like all these past spirits and entities that were in the throne previously of that throne right? Are kind of like coursing through his cerebral cortex and testing this guy, and like, are you good enough to be one of us? It's kind of creepy, but basically like they either like view this guy as worthy and, hey, you're one of us, or his mind explodes in 40K fashion and he's just this wreck and dead and done.
So the they that's in the throne is, I think, really interesting because it is the prior pilots,
right,
or noble knight pilots, but it's also the machine
spirit mixed in there,
right? And which I love that they do this from knights all the way up through titans, of where that line
is drawn
is
who knows,
real loose.
Yeah,
like when does the pilot stop being the knight and the knight stop being and so this communing is all of these things. I love that, you just said they, because it is a they.
Right.
And they're all there, and you got to be able to jive with all of it and then become part of it.
Yeah.
And that you're kind of tested.
And as you said, like your brain is actually changed. Like you are physically altered and now you're part of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing too was like they bring I don't remember what they call them, aspirants or whatever in. They clip them into the thrones, and then they just kind of like there's torchlight in there, and they just kind of walk out and shut the door. And
40K is full of those kinds of stories, right? These tests of will and these tests of honor and valor, and it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but like one guy will be laughing and the other one's like crying and screaming, and then they come back and they're like, well, 4 of them are dead and 2 of them are still alive. In the next
cake
day.
or death, baby.
Yeah,
cake or death. I'll take cake, but very often that cake is very far to reach because this is a galaxy of trillions and trillions of human beings, and very few are it takes a strong willpower to pilot one of these things.
Yeah, yeah,
and that's what these things are testing.
I couldn't do it.
No way. Well,
I couldn't. You kidding me?
Too much of an individual, like an independent character or something.
So
wait a minute, wait. There's you mentioned a minute ago about like each knight household having its own little vibe that develops over time, and then again that's doubled down on here that the knight will not only will not only reflect the values of their knightly house, but then each knight is different.
Sure,
right? That they'll have their own personalities.
From
certain,
the machine spirit, right?
Certain machine spirits are more aggressive than others, and certain ones are more chivalric than others, and certain ones are more defense minded than others, and so that's yet another
My knight
layer.
would be like a pacifist knight. He's like over like picking flowers. Oh, no,
It's
I'm
got
helping.
giant destructor oven mitts.
I'm making a big cake.
Well, where's the cake coming from, Justin?
He said
Somebody
cake
has
or
to make
death.
the cake.
But so now let's talk about. So every knight that falls to chaos has already gone through this process,
right.
But what happens in some cases is, as we were saying earlier, the Dark Mechanicum is kind of experimenting with not just forbidden technology, but also sorcery and forbidden technology, and kind of the melding of those two things. So it can be this hugely torturous affair where they're changing these knights and ensuring loyalty of them, or manipulating them in just unseemly ways.
When it comes to all these Chaos Knights turning, like that's absolutely like in my mind what happened to a lot of these throne mechanicums were just being tainted, and it was like it wasn't as much of a choice thing.
I could imagine cases where like the Dark Mechanicum is like manipulating the thrones, and these guys go sit into them, and next thing you know, things are maybe they've put demons into these thrones. And
my favorite option is,
I love it,
a little sprinkle of some demon in your
juice.
Add a little demon juice into the collective and see what happens. Another one that I really like, and the new kits really
remind me never to have him mix me a drink ever again.
They are delicious.
They always are.
Demon drinks,
demon cocktails. The new kit reflects this. Actually, is the notion of like another way of kind of tainting the entire symbiosis. Is rather than from the inside where you hit the machine spirit with a demon,
right?
Just putting horrible sigils all over the outside and letting it just slowly seep in. And I mean, not only does that just look cool, but usually
the taint comes from the inside out,
right?
But you're saying an outside
an outer taint.
Yeah.
Yes. As one may.
Wipe that smile off your face.
No, it makes perfect sense. I see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can visualize it.
I'm going to pull up, Carl.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You should change the topic.
Yeah. All right.
Still can.
Let's talk about knights. So, okay, that's really the lore of these knights, and we'll talk a little bit our
simple
favorite houses,
yet effective, right?
Well, I mean, it mirrors a path of the destruction of the empire as we knew it during the Great Crusade and the fall of all of that, and precipitating the fall of humanity, hypothetically speaking at this point, but inevitable, I think. and then
good is dumb.
But it does mirror that split between the Chaos Legions and the Loyalist Legions and such. So, but I really do like how they've done a good job. And until we kind of started prepping for this, I hadn't really read in depth a lot of the background. And now that I've read it all really in depth, it really, I think they did actually a really nice job of weaving it into the story, because I always kind of felt, as you said, well, where did these things come from? And all of a sudden all of a sudden they're on every tournament table.
Right. God, there seems to be a lot of them now.
Geez, but okay, they did a great job of weaving the lore in with the existing lore, and I think it makes sense and it works.
It really gives you that medieval
for sure.
feudal feel.
Yeah, it's a great play with the word knight, like of all of these ideas. And I think my favorite part about this history is from the initial descriptions where they were there and they were these giant robots that fought around the Horus Heresy and stuff. And it was like, okay, cool, that's what they are. But as they developed it, that they became these very isolated and unique little cultural touch points within the greater galaxy.
Yes.
That they, each knight, be it chaos or loyal, is its own, each house is its own very unique culture.
Agreed.
Which as a hobbyist gives you a
Freedom,
ton of freedom
to do whatever you want.
Right. Which, as we'll talk about later, is actually why I sold off my knight army. Was I didn't fully get that. And then I felt like I missed out.
Okay.
So, but we'll get there.
Okay, so in 40K, as I was just saying, I appreciate how they weaved it in. I think from Games Workshop's perspective, just purely from a business perspective about how these things fit in 40K the game. I mean, adding large plastic models with a fairly high price point for them that are going to be popular and can be run as their own army or as an allied at the time in 6th allied detachment is a win-win for Games Workshop. I mean, I would have been highly surprised that they released these models and people universally rejected them.
But it was an investment. There was a gamble. Like,
For sure.
I remember at the time there was some talk out of GW of like, oh, this better be well received, because when they made the Baneblade or the Stampa, those were intended to be kind of these. I mean, I always
Kind
got
of
the
a one-off
one-off.
thing,
Like
right?
a person might have one, and sure, they're not a mass production thing. They're a special item for orcs
Or
second
Imperial
to
Guard.
only Marine. Well, no, orcs second to only Marines have a variety of kits to choose from.
Oh, right.
Right. And that, okay, we can build them this giant thing because there's enough orc options and enough orc players to justify it. There's enough guard variety and treadheads are dedicated enough to do this.
Yeah.
And it's this specialist thing. But then to go, we're going to build this massive kit for everybody.
Yeah.
Almost, I mean, unless you're Xenos.
And it can be its own.
And it can be its own faction.
Yeah.
It was this big shift within the model world, just not even within the narrative, but for models. And I don't even know I fully
Preceding
understand
this
it.
was the Wraith Knight, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, at the time
There
when
was
they
something
came out,
different.
you could still have like these ludicrous, 5 Wraith Knight armies, but like
Here's the other thing. And
I didn't
here's-
see much of that.
But
Right.
here's the major shift, and this really happens in 6th edition. So Horus Heresy had come out, and in Horus Heresy, Alan had written into their a rule that was about super heavies, and it was a super heavy can consist of 20% of the points of the army, which really limited them to 2,000 to 2,500 point games. In Horus Heresy, by the way, 2,000, 2,500 point games would play
That's
very fast.
Yeah, stuff dies.
Everything dies. Yeah. But it was a limiting factor. And I remember buying a couple super heavies and being like, oh, wait.
When am I going to get a chance to run all these?
I need a 3,000 point game to run this thing. What am I doing?
Because Carl only buys armies to that 2,000 point. And
No, that is not.
I'm impressed you said that with a straight face
That would
all the way through. That was
probably
really good.
Better for me.
Pro.
So,
Here's my
and
choices.
I'll be honest, I really liked that rule. I still like that rule. But Games Workshop was like, hey, write a Lord of War slot in your Force Orc. That's great. Hey, we're going to add that. No restriction.
Yeah.
So this hugely throws some things out of balance for 40K at this point. Lords of War were something that were originally intended just for Apocalypse games, then kind of got brought in to the Horus Heresy. And I think Games Workshop at the time saw this as, we can sell some big models. Let's open the doors to this. And initial reaction to that is pretty negative across the board. They weren't allowed in tournaments. There was.
I mean, this is also before like the rule of 6, right?
Yeah.
Or a roll of a 6 wounds.
Yeah.
This is when it was like, okay,
That's right.
3/4 of my army cannot
Cannot hurt this thing.
hurt you. Fun.
Yep. And so dealing with a unit like that on the table, like if you weren't expecting a unit like that to be there, you maybe had a couple units that could damage it.
If you had to tailor your list or plan for it in the meta to stand a chance. Yeah.
Right. And the problem there was not everybody had necessarily the tools or the ability to field things like that.
This is also before Smite.
It is. It is before Smite. So
it was interesting.
So then to add to that, suddenly these knights, I love, and I still love the idea of the knight being an addition to my army. I'm not particularly interested in running an all-knight army. I see why some people like
You look at it more as an allied contingent.
For me.
For the moment, I agree with you.
And that's just my flavor, right? Like, I get that somebody wants to run an all-knight army. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits and drawbacks of that in a bit. But one of the major drawbacks to that at that time was people really resisted that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to bring all knights? Well, I'm not interested in playing you. Or you need to tell me you're going to bring all knights if I'm going to play. And that's a weird place for an army to sit in 40K where somebody's like, if you're going to play that army, you need to tell me in advance.
Especially because although it's a low model count army, these are models that these are models that they take a lot of time to do right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make look good. I guess you could bang out that army pretty quickly.
Look, I've seen them banged out.
You know what I mean? Like they're centerpiece models. So you're still putting a lot. I've built these things, and they take time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to run against that,
I will tell you, I feel like the Adeptus Titanicus Warlord Titan takes more time than a knight though to put together.
I can't wait to take that Pepsi challenge.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with one. But listen, I think this is a real problem for 40K at this point.
Yeah,
and
that you have a whole army that basically lives in this world of opponent's permission.
People hate playing it.
Yeah,
yeah. And what was interesting was, again, going back in time at this point, Forge World. You remember there was a whole point where people were like, if you're going to use Forge World units, you need to ask that person's permission.
Yeah.
And I remember making a prediction because as things were kind of ramping up, and I said 5 years from now, nobody's going to care if you're running a Forge World model. And right now, nobody really cares.
Extremely nobody cares.
Mostly because they're overpriced and underperforming.
Please take Forge Worlds.
Yeah. But, so we've kind of run the gamut there a bit. There's still some good units.
Oh, there's good units.
For sure. No doubt. Right? I've got one sitting in their case that
I fight against them regularly, and I get
that Colin just painted for me.
Angry. So angry.
That's because you're fighting custodies. Anyway, I found that was very interesting that we had this problem going on there. I think that problem still exists a little bit. Even in 8th edition, I think people are a little leery, but I think that's more of a holdover from where we stood before. Now you can wound everything on a 6, right?
Which is huge, right?
Which is still hard to bring down a knight wounding on 6.
Oh, it is, but at least you feel like you have. You're participating. It's not like, hey, this whole unit over here does nothing. But you might get, and when you fight, which we'll talk about against knights, like it's all about that chip damage, right?
Yeah.
You got to chip away at that freaking tree before it falls.
Yeah, right? I don't recall which gun does 25 wounds.
Exactly. Yeah. So, hey, that Guardian unit put 2 wounds on you. Rad. Yeah. At least they're doing something. Right?
But the interesting thing there is, I think some of that is a holdover. I think also we have seen all the codexes go through updates, and now they have more tools to be able to deal with this kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas before there were codexes that had been lagged, that hadn't been updated in years.
Woof. And there's also a level of comfort, right? From the wider player base. It's like, so knights are a thing.
The meta has changed.
Yeah. Or accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every change comes with a period of acceptance.
It changes hard.
But this was a hard change. I mean, the only change I think where I saw this kind of stutter stop situation prior to that was with flyers being introduced when they had totally different flyer rules and you could only hit flyers on sixes and all that stuff. And
come on, chapter approved. And flyers are still... They're still trying to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, it's
rule of 3, baby.
But the interesting thing there was, you either had the tools to deal with it or you didn't have flyers in your army. They weren't an option for you.
Right.
So that took a while to roll out as well and to become kind of leveling the playing field a bit. So
anytime you have a release like this, it's such a big kind of a culture shock,
For sure.
it's good for the company financially. It's good for hobbyists because they have these awesome. There's a lot of good that comes from it, but then you have to have like that like curve of like, let's get used to this and how do we handle this?
Yeah.
So it's fun.
So let's talk about how Chaos Knights fit into this, because Chaos Knights kind of arrive on the scene where Imperial Knights have existed for a long time.
Yep.
Wraith
We
Knights
actually got to
existed.
help.
We got to help
work
with
on this book.
Yeah,
So
this was fun.
Yeah, we got to play test it as it came out and look at some of the lore and the backstory. And honestly, our initial feedback was, you've taken the Imperial Codex and just changed all the names, and
Now it says chaos on the
now it
front.
says chaos on
High
the front.
five.
Instead of households, we had some options for
Yeah.
Infernal and Iconoclast and things like that.
But it really wasn't that different. And we gave some pretty direct feedback about this doesn't feel like chaos, and they were incredibly open to the feedback and provided us, well, here's our thinking, and what if we were to do this, or what if we were to do that. And although I still feel like, man, I would have liked to see him take it really far, I think they definitely took it enough that I felt comfortable putting it in my army and going, yeah, this is a Chaos Knight. Now, what did surprise us was the model coming out.
Yeah, we didn't know.
We had no idea.
And,
Yeah.
Whoa, buddy.
And we'll talk about
talk
the
about that
models in
later.
a bit. But I think the position that the Chaos Knights sit in is a really interesting one, because Chaos Space Marines, compared to their cousins of the Loyalist type, really needed something to help with the punch that they were dealing with allies from Knights and that kind of thing. This helps level the field a little bit for them in a fairly easy way for GW to do.
Yeah, especially when you're in an event that previously didn't allow Forge World units, right?
Right.
Like the Khitan or something. Now
Right.
you have, this is an official Games Workshop release. Like I can actually go to a tournament and play with my Titan.
Yeah.
And I think
My
it's
Knight.
to indicate, the earlier point about the splash that the Imperial Knight kit caused in the Imperial Knight Codex, that it was this kind of meta changing across the game effect. I haven't seen any of that for Chaos Knights, because the
It's
community is
established.
used to it. And they're like, oh, well, cool. It's about, and this is the part that sometimes I roll my eyes, even as a Chaos Demon player, at the Chaos Space Marine players going, where's mine? Where's mine? Where's mine? I get it, you guys. I get why you do that. Not saying I don't understand it. I just, I've heard it.
Things are lost in the warp easily.
Yeah.
As
But then the
Joey.
Chaos Knights,
Sorry.
either one, it's both good. The Chaos Knight kit, well, here's yours. You got yours.
Yeah.
And it did feel like it's about time.
It feels natural, though.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a natural fit. Like I always say when I'm building my armies, like how I'm so stuck on theme, I always feel like Chaos Demons allied with Chaos Space Marines is a natural fit to me. To me, it's like, yeah, they're two sides of the same coin, and they should, of course, they be on the field. And this all makes sense as I put it on the table, and I don't think anybody goes, well, that doesn't look thematic. Here, I feel like, yeah, that looks thematic too.
my last game I played with my Nurgle Alliance,
It looks so
I
good.
felt perfectly okay.
It feels right.
It was a good list, powerful, thematic.
Yeah, for sure.
What's
I
funny,
looked at that list and I was like, yeah, that looks like a Death Guard looking list. That's cool.
I would say for me, as long as we're doing like how individually you see it, I think that feels more natural for me with Chaos Marines to go, here's my Chaos Marines, here's a Chaos Knight, and here's Chaos Demons. But then when I see a Marine army with a Knight, there's always a part of me that goes,
yeah.
where I see a Guard army with Knights, and I'm like, yeah, totally, I get
Although
that
in
for
the
sure.
lore, they do have.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but I hear
know.
what you're saying.
But for me, I go like, but they're both so pure of heart. Would they?
But now the lore reflects that.
What's that?
With you have to have an all Marine Codex book, like all your models.
Oh,
in
to
your
get
Marine,
the
to
hot-
get
the hot
all
pops,
your
right.
amazing goodness. Yeah,
And it is amazing goodness.
the
But-
rules reflect the lore, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so which is great because now they've adjusted the rules to match what I wanted.
There you go. I'm
Thanks.
okay with that.
Yeah, they got my
I'm
memo.
really happy.
They
So
did not. I
the
had-
other thing about the Chaos Knights Codex is it definitely utilizes some of the models from the Imperial line.
Oh, you
And
think?
they even say on page 52, and I'm going to read this out loud, Chaos Knights miniatures. Chaos Knights are based on the chassis of Imperial Knights, and to build some of the variants of Chaos Knights, you will need Imperial Knights kits. To build a War Dog, you will need either an Armiger Helverin or Armiger Warglaive kit, and to build a Knight Despoiler, you will need the Imperial Knight Warden kit. To build the Knight Tyrant, you'll need either the Knight Castellan or Knight Valiant.
which isn't particularly true because the weapons, right?
Right.
Like the weapons are the big thing. Like they have the Rampager kit, the new Chaos Knight kit, and you can just bits order or
Yeah.
or scratch build.
Although I do have
Guns.
Skills.
I do have to say where the real big winner here in this book, and we'll go into a bit, is the new Chaos Knight kit. Like it's.
We
I
both
know
want to start
there's
talking
other-
about it. We're
oh,
not
it's
there
so
yet,
good.
Carl.
We'll
We're
get
not
there.
there
Okay,
yet.
we'll get there.
We all want to talk about it.
All right. So I think we actually we kind of covered this next topic that I had on our show notes, which is, how have they evolved over the years? And I think we kind of melded that into this
From
discussion.
lead
Which is
plastic.
Yeah.
which is
can you imagine these is metal?
since their introduction since their introduction in 6th edition, the company's really doubled down on them, and some of the units have become much more powerful. So in some cases we provided feedback on the knights at the time that there were certain weapon systems that felt really, really overpowered, and I still think they're a little on the strong side, and they still came out that way. So
I mean, through the playtest thing, all we can do is give feedback, right? Like,
Yep.
we're just there to give feedback, and whether it gets taken or not is.
and there's a lot of other groups giving feedback
lot of other
too,
groups, yep.
with probably more information on how that tournament
and
scene
Games
looks than
Workshop
us.
is listening. We love you
For
so
sure.
much.
Thank you for listening.
From that, we talk about that 3-up invul save.
We're not gonna get everything we want,
No, but like
but as long as it's
Man.
better for the community, yeah.
within weeks of a book coming out, they're fixing things.
It's crazy.
which is good.
Yeah. One little beat of how have they evolved over the years that we didn't really touch on, which is funny because you just read that and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Armigers and Helverins.
yeah.
Th-
We
those are-
didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, those are the squires. Is
Yeah.
still how I like to think of them.
That's a good way of thinking about that.
That they're the squire to the knight. They're the little gun toters or
Right.
melt a chainsword fellas. Yeah, they came out in the 8th edition version of these books.
Yeah.
They didn't exist prior to that.
And offered a lot more flexibility to a knight list, right?
Yeah, they
initially came
rounded
with
out.
that getting started kit, like they had the Mechanicum and the.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, remember that
I
was the
forgot all
only
about
place
that.
for like a month. That
Yeah.
was the only place you could get
Good.
a set of those models, but then they came out separate.
Right.
Was it only a month?
And it was a nice
Maybe a couple.
For me it was a really necessary,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, relative to the term necessary with toy soldiers, but necessary addition to the army, that it gave it a little bit of a size
Yeah.
shift,
Yeah.
a visual shift, because having 3 or 4 or 5 just traditional knights, Imperial knights running at you, it looked great if somebody painted them up, but it also felt very, very samey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Samey.
And the interesting thing about those kits, when they came out, I really was like, okay. Like I they came out with the Mechanicum or Adeptus Mechanicus group in that kit that that set they initially came out with. And everybody was very jazzed about them, and I was just like, okay, and it didn't really sink into me like what they were and what
they're
they were
so good.
for
They're so good.
until the Chaos Knight Codex came out, and then
They're
I saw
so
the War
good.
Dogs, and I was like, oh, I get it.
Fast moving,
Yeah.
good firepower.
Yep.
Like they're good.
Yeah.
Oh, quite.
But I agree with you on that stage thing, and that's what I was talking about before. Was I kind of built my list where I have like a bunch of Chaos Space Marines, some cultists, and then I have, like the heavy weapons wielders, and then I have a little bit, stepping it up, the Demon Prince, and then the War Dogs and the Knight, and so you see this kind of staggered growth of the view of the army. I think it'll be fun to look
It
at.
creates a much more interesting silhouette to the army, right?
Yes,
Right, and that's something I've talked about in the past. My and this is going old school. Apologies, but my goblin army, my night goblin army for fantasy battle, I really went out of my way to do exactly that, of going from snotling all the way up to a giant, and there's this very clear escalating, this arc of growth.
Yeah.
And without that it kind of fixed a problem that I don't think too many of us were going, God, knights all look alike. What a crappy army.
Right.
And then these came out and you're like, oh, wow, that was a problem.
It's interesting though. I mean, you see that in movies like Lord of the Rings, right? In these big sieges, like you see, here's the huge army, and then here's the trolls, and then here's the giants. You'll see that kind of build because it's aesthetically very interesting to look at. So
Yep. And then like flexibility wise on the board too, like it offers the player
For sure.
much more advanced maneuvers and different tactics you can experiment with.
Sure.
And yeah, it's
Sure.
good. It's all
okay,
good.
so let's talk real quick about the organizational structure. I'm going to flip it just because I get tired of going loyalist. Chaos. Let's talk chaos first. Chaos. There's different kind of as we talked about the knight houses and there's different ranks, there's kind of, as things have progressed now, 3 different really structures to the Chaos Knight group. You have Dreadblades, which are the equivalent of like Ronins. Yeah, they're kind of off on their own. They really don't serve any master. Maybe they do for a temporary period of time, but they kind of just wander around, destroying whatever they feel like destroying. Or
they might not even be chaos. They might just be like these people that really hate the Imperium.
That's true.
And they haven't given into the dark gods.
That's true. Or really they may be full on, just demons locked in these things.
They're not full spike.
Driving around. Yeah. So then you have the iconoclast houses. And these are the ones that we talked about earlier that were kind of bound by their oaths and came to reconcile the atrocities they were performing just because they're like, well, but we've made this oath. We have to continue to support this. And then you have the infernal houses, these are really the captive knights that were dragged in by the Dark Mechanicum into their chambers and subjected to these horrific experiments and everything, and then set loose on the enemy to see what happens.
As Pez put it, the demon sauce was dripped into the
I think those are my favorite. But
Mechanicum.
Yeah. I'm a Dreadblade junkie. Give me Dreadblades.
I'm the Infernal House.
I like the Infernal too.
Yeah.
I use it yeah.
Thumbs up.
I mortal wounded the crap out of myself in my games. The power.
It's just too much, man.
Dude.
Can't handle it.
Strength 10 thermal lances.
Oh my God.
Yes, please.
And then you have the Loyalist side. You want to talk about the Loyalist side?
Sure. So you got, in counterpoint to the Dreadblades, you have the Free Blades of the Loyalists. The Free Blades are I love these because, again, the Ronin example, but they are these knights that, for a huge variety of reasons, are out effectively crusading on their own. And just,
maybe the rest of their house was destroyed. There could be 100
They got abandoned on a planet somewhere. They got whatever. And the notion of these, there's a few of them where I like the idea of that they have somehow their own transportation. Yeah. That there is some space Corvette with a knight inside of it that's just trucking around.
A big Winnebago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I was thinking of like the soundtrack to Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
And just slow motion cruising by, and out drops a pod, and then there's the knight. And anyway, so that's the Free Blades, and then you have the knightly houses, or the knight houses, and you have greater and lesser houses, which are
based on their importance. And
exactly,
and whatnot. Yeah.
There's 2 knights. You're probably a lesser house. There's 20. You're greater.
But that's like for them.
5,000 Mechanicum.
Yeah. Okay. So much like any show force where we talk about a thing, each one has kind of its own flavor represented. You have different night houses. You have different chaos, either infernal or iconoclast houses or Ronin. I wanted to take a minute and let's each talk about, as we look at these, kind of which ones spoke to us, and each of us will take kind of one loyalist and one chaos. And let's start with the loyalist. You want me to go first?
Do it.
So I chose House Hawkshroud for a number of reasons. One, they have a fantastic yellow scheme. And I think yellow on something this size is just awesome looking. Especially when they kind of, in some cases, they're, doing the shoulder panels like halved or that kind of thing. I think that color really speaks to me on a larger scale. It looks really cool on the table.
Easy to paint too, believe it or not.
Yep.
I'd love to show you how that's easy to paint. I think it's easier to paint now than it used to.
Oh, no, it's super. Yellow's fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of yellows out. Well, yellow's pretty challenging for some people, but I think now there are paints out there that help with that quite a bit.
I think at a larger scale like this too, it takes away some of the problems people have with brushing yellow on.
I would agree.
Even if you are not an airbrush or a rattle can, there are so many great rattle can options for you. And I think, and I'm not sure, I don't want to speak for Justin, but shading yellow is just a treat. Like it's really fun
to make it super easy to shade.
But it's so receptive to a huge variety of colors. You almost can't pick the wrong color to shade yellow with.
That is true.
Yellow's fun.
I agree. I'm into it.
Right, pro
So
painted.
Dude, one of my students, middle of class.
You are pro painted.
I love painting yellow.
That's awesome.
It's okay.
Everybody. Well, before we go off on that tangent, let me finish with Hawkshroud. Because the other thing I like about Hawkshroud is their backstory. And the fundamental thing about Hawkshroud is that their oath is everything to them. From like we talked earlier about how some
Good old boys.
oaths kind of drew them down past, but they're the oath of a Hawkshroud person, and that's not just even the knights, but like their society in general, the people on their world means everything to them, to the point where if a child is born, when that child is born, it will take on ownership of some of the debts and honor debts that the rest of the family had. Like, you're born into this, and you're born into oaths that you didn't even have a choice to take.
Okie dokie.
It is like super part of their thing. But the other side of that coin is they have never not fulfilled a oath that they have made. So they're
The dwarves of Warhammer 40,000.
do
they have long
They don't have a
beards?
book of grudges.
Do the pilots have
they're-
long beards with
they're-
plates? And
They're
Just taxes.
okay.
just axes.
Oh, for God's sakes! All right, let's go on to the next one.
No, keep going.
The thing I'm trying to say here is, so they've never let down somebody that they've made an oath to. So all of their allies know that they can totally trust these guys. Now, that being said, they're constantly out at war because they have all these oaths that they have to
Right.
fulfill, and they're just constantly doing this. But I liked that commitment to one philosophy of them.
Or they're the general contractors that just never came back and like, are you going to come finish my kitchen? I'll be there.
I'll be there
a
Wednesday.
while.
How come you're not here Wednesday?
Well, we haven't not fulfilled our oath.
Oh, we're doing
right.
another oath.
We're just doing another oath.
You're really undermining what I think is cool about them.
I'm sorry. No, I
Jody,
think they're
why don't
cool
you
too.
tell me what's so cool about your loyalist house?
Well, now you're going to be salty because they're House
Here it
Morton.
comes, buddy.
No,
Morton.
you missed it.
I heard it.
Salty
House
Morton.
Morton.
Come on, that was good. Damn it,
Morton
man.
salt.
Yeah, one decent pun at
That
show
was
and
not
you
decent.
poop on it.
Anyway.
I know. House Morton. They are a loyalist house. This is the house I painted my knight army in.
What are their color schemes?
They are black and red with cool, very mustard yellow striping.
Did you salt
and
one?
detailing.
Yes.
I did not. No, I wanted to turn and burn on them.
Yeah.
This was can you produce a good looking knight quick? Yeah. I did all the gold on the entire army with Sharpies. Yes. Maximum Sharpie.
Nailed it.
Maximum Sharpie.
Nailed
I saw
it.
that eye roll.
Shake your
There's
head.
no. I can't make.
Shake
I
your head
can't
all
look at you.
He's a Sharpie
so
master.
House Morton.
I am simply the Padawan to
How's
the
that Sharpie working out on your Black Legion?
I'm not doing that.
Okay, just checking.
It is like any
could've.
tool. It has its
Don't
place.
you push me, Justin.
Actually, the Negro Gold is really close
It
to
is
Sharpie.
super close to that
It's
shot.
not that far
Trust
off.
me, I noticed when I was
You're
saying
like, hey, actually. And I will say though, for anybody out there who's like, you can Sharpie. No, it was not a good idea. There's a reason I sold the army. I would not recommend Sharpieing all the gold trim on
No,
these
it's a
guys.
little too much.
You're going to get streaks. Anyway, but what do I like about them? Why did I pick this one? Other than their color scheme is just super dope and brooding and cool looking, I think. Their world is the world that they inhabit. When they inhabited it was a constant state of night, a constant state of darkness. And basically this notion of almost like the Vin Diesel movie Pitch Black, of these knights walking out into the darkness around their cathedral, their fortress, and these horrific giant creatures being out there
battling all
and they're
the
battling
friends. Yeah.
and all it says is they're these massive Xenos entities, and the chain swords and the gauntlets and all this just ripping them down. I was
Fearless.
like, yeah, like how cool is that? These knights just stomping out into the dark, ripping off the heads of these God knows whats, and then coming back. And exactly that. Their gimmick is always that they are fearless, that they will continue to press through damage, or they are a bonus to hit. Their rules have actually changed a couple times through the codexes, because they're used to fighting in low light conditions. They're consistent and able to hit at a high rate. But yeah, it wasn't so much their chivalric code or any of that. It was just that this story of these guys fighting on these, blacked out planets, and then they have this black and yellow armor. I'm into that. That works for me.
That works. I had to go with House Griffith. The color scheme, not a huge fan of.
which is
It's basically like a bleach bone
Yeah.
with red and blue, and I mean it could work. It could work. But the lore. So these guys are basically like exemplary warriors who constantly strive to maintain the legacy of martial excellence. And the cool thing is, like, rumor has it, legend has it, before the STC construct was complete, you know, these guys were the planet they landed on had dragons and stuff flying around, drakes, you know, and these guys are basically like killing these things on horseback. And you know, hey, now I can kill dragons even better. I have a big suit to sit in. But all throughout their like traditions, like they've always honored the blade, and just like true knights, right?
Right.
Like, literally true medieval knights. And I just thought that was super cool. Like, just they're all about like going and finding the biggest, baddest guys in combat and taking them out like in this honorable combat. And just the whole idea of these guys getting trained fighting dragons.
Really
in Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but you can visualize.
But it's one of the things I really like even about Space Marines is the knight heraldry. Like they're space knights.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they are.
And these dragons were probably these crazy Xenos beasts, you know, like they weren't actual
they
dragons, right?
Well, yeah. They could be dragons, but why would that not be an alien
Well,
dragon?
one of my, you know, it's the knights in that whole like hinted at chivalric, you know, code and Space Knights, and like it's always kind of this tongue in cheek or like side aesthetic and ideology. The knights just steer into it, like from a lore standpoint. And House Griffith like doubles down on steering into it, is like, no, they're the dragon killers.
Yeah.
Like, what do they do? No, they're the knights that slay dragons.
And they
That's
still
what
settle
they
their
are.
differences between houses with, you know, duels and stuff. And
Because it's
that's what you do.
BAF.
Right on. So let's come around the horn and come back to the Chaos Knights at this point. So I chose House Lucaris. House Lucaris is a house that during the Great Crusade they fought with the Luna Wolves for a while. They immediately swore allegiance to Horus when he came around. They answered the call without question. When the War Master was killed at the Siege of Terra, Lucaris swore an oath of undying enmity against the Emperor. So they forswore all their allegiance to the Black, and they also forswore their allegiance to the Black Legion. What they perceived as the successor of the Sons of Horus, which had abandoned its fallen Primarch. Now, since that time, and they've gone around and they've slaughtered Chaos Space Marines, they've slaughtered Loyalists. They're kind of indiscriminately slaughtering things, although lately they've been kind of reworking with the Black Legion and working with them again. So this is kind of the house I think I'm going to do my my knight up in, because the colors there are a dark bluish or gray with some red and this snake symbols and chaos symbols on them. I think it's a pretty cool scheme. It's a fairly traditional looking scheme, but one of the things that really attracted me to it is this one guy, Lord Obadar. He drives this knight desecrator known as Iron Malice, and the cool thing is whenever Iron Malice comes out of its fortress to go do battle, there's electricity playing all over it and stuff. And I just think visually that's freaking awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
I like that.
Very Night Lordsy.
Yep. So anyway, I just think it's a cool looking force. I'm gonna probably not do exactly how it is, but I'm gonna call it.
Just make
that.
it your own.
Yeah, make it my own. But I do want to. I hadn't realized when I initially started painting my Chaos Knight. That I want to do the shoulder pads in kind of halves. I want to separate the colors there a little bit.
It looks so good on those panels.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that up on that guy, which should be fairly easy to do.
And they're they get the cover boy shot on the Chaos Knight book, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I like them. I think they're cool.
So
House
I chose
Lucaris.
House Herpetrex or
Herpetrex.
So this scheme
It's too
looks
easy.
It's
really cool. It's very Death Guard-y. It's got the black with the bone with the it almost makes me want to kind of go back to my knight.
It feels like a clear fit with a Death Guard army.
Yeah, no, it's not Death Guard, but man, that scheme looks awesome.
But
if
is it
you
not?
can't decide between am I going Horus Heresy bone white or modern, putrid green
Death Guards.
for Death Guard, or kind of some of the cool black. You get all of it here. It's like what looks cool.
It
all
looks
of it.
super cool. And
Here
like
you go.
reading the lore on them, I really thought was super cool because like this is one of like the oddity kind of night houses that was never discovered during the Great Crusade.
Yeah.
And so these guys were obviously they didn't want anybody messing with them. When the Imperium finally came to them, they're just like, "Who the hell are you? Die!" Like skinning these guys and sending the flayed skin back. And
It's like they were pre-chaos.
they were basically pre-chaos. They were like, "Dude, no,
We've already
like,
fallen.
We're good. Like we got our own here." And they just basically were like, "Dude, we want nothing to do with you." And apparently, like in the lore, there had been like several people that had, these ambassadors that had reached out to them previously before the Imperium had
Let
come.
me guess, they all came back dead.
Probably, right? All exterminated. So yeah, these guys were just like, "Dude, we want nothing to do with your crusade." And
So where did they switch? Like, where does they?
so yeah, that's where it gets into like these guys are basically determined, hey, you guys are iconoclast, you must die. And as the Imperium assaults their planet and starts coming down, there's all these forces that are aiding them. So
of course.
So basically chaos
They really were pre-chaos.
they were pre-chaos, right? Before these houses turned.
Hipster chaos.
They were as I twirl my mustache up here. Yeah, absolutely. These were like the OGs, man. They were the OG chaos. Like you can't mess with us. But basically, like, as the story goes, these people had all these dark things happening way before the Imperium reached out, and all these kind of dark, seances and all this going on. It's just super cool, like subtly chaos.
I like it. I like that they were hipster chaos guys.
Hipster
I kind
chaos.
of dig that.
And
Yeah.
they look
'Cause
awesome.
It's interesting because it gives you like this perspective that chaos didn't just have like one way in. Like it was already present. It's always been there.
It was that too, and it was also like the hubris, like to me, the hubris and the pride of these particular guys that were like, send your envoys, send your people. We don't care. Like we're doing what we're gonna do, and we don't want your help. We don't need your help.
Right. That power behind the knights of some of them had to have been like, why do we need you again?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So mine is an infernal house, and ties right into what I said earlier about how I like my chaos. So House Commentus is the one I picked. They are a red color scheme with gold and brass kind of trim. That said, however, they are not specifically cornate in any way. They just have a pretty cornate looking,
not corn.
Corn, not corn. Just because they're red doesn't mean they like corn. They can like other things too. Their icon, though, their house symbol to me is the bee's knees. It is the Mechanicum cog because they were originally loyal to the Mechanicum, but it's got this black and white screaming demonic mouth and demonic downturned horns wrapped around the cog
pretty
in the
awesome.
middle of the screaming
That is
maw.
pretty
I
awesome.
was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm into this. And then once I read their fluff a little more closely, their narrative, I was like, oh, well, yeah. So they swear loyalty to the Mechanicum. The Mechanicum comes down, starts strip mining the world, updating their knights. All is good. Everything's fine. These are how things are supposed to work. Their homeworld of Matrica is struck, though, by a completely planet-engulfing demonic invasion somewhere around the 33rd millennium, and they are completely cut off from the Mechanicum. And when they reemerge, shocking absolutely no one, they are turned to chaos.
As you do.
As one does. Hey, can't beat them, join them. And I hear the health plan's good with chaos. So... But my favorite part of all that is you have these demonically infested night house, but the nobles, because they're still these fallen nobles, actually go out now and seek out demonic infestation. They seek demons to infuse their knights.
Nice.
Which I'm like,
I like that.
Yep,
I'm okay.
You guys are my
I'm in.
Yeah, like steer into it, right?
Yeah, for
steer
sure.
into it.
For sure.
So yeah, that's between the icon, and I'm a sucker for a visual, and that like black and white play around the cog, and then this faction being like, so what are you into? Demonic possession?
Yeah. Cool.
That's what you do on the weekends? Yes. And then we party. I'm into that.
Let's move into notable battles of the 41st millennium, or maybe even a little earlier. So we'll each talk about 2 battles, one for the Loyalists, one for Chaos here. We'll do the same round robin we just did. I'll start it off with the Loyalists. And this one, I chose a battle titled The War of Death's Welcome. And you're going to see why I chose this one towards the end, because this is something that you don't typically hear about. So there's this splinter fleet of Hive Fleet Hydra, the Tyranid fleet, that comes down upon the night world of Death's Welcome. That's the name of the world.
Nice.
The people who live there are these, they're described as morbid nihilists who worship the Emperor as the harbinger of war and ending.
Okay, now I got it. I was like, wait, how can you worship the Emperor if you're a nihilist?
That's right.
Because it's the end. Okay,
there you
cool.
go.
Got it. I'm good.
So they see this Tyranid invasion coming, and they're like, this is it. Excellent. Like, this is how we meet our death, right? These Tyranids are coming down on the planet. So all the knights go out and they wage war against these Tyranids. And the war is just like hugely violent. The Tyranid beasts are crashing into knights' lines. The nobles are just slaughtering Tyranids by the thousands and more. Of course, as you know, Tyranids more and more just keep coming. And it's just like goes on. Hormagaunts and Termagants like climbing up the knights, like forcing their way inside and like killing the pilots, and knights are just falling. Like, I'm picturing this sea of Tyranids with knights just spread out in it, just butchering Tyranids,
as it should be.
And occasionally a knight like collapses under the weight of all these Tyranid forces climbing on it and battling it. And then eventually as the knights are kind of welcoming the end of everything, the Tyranids, the waves of them actually begin to like pull back and they retreat. And then the surviving nobles find that like the Tyranid tides kind of like pull back and dry up altogether. And the ships that are dangerously low on biomass reserve just pull back and leave. Like, they literally beat a Tyranid invasion.
That's awesome.
On their planet. And there's only like, maybe like a dozen knights left at the end, but they actually beat back Tyranids, which you never hear
that
about.
doesn't happen.
And so I thought, that's freaking awesome. So that was my story.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
What about you, Jody?
So I was super tempted to call back to, I think one of the last ones you and I got to do together was, remember Ugelhard? Remember him, the orc?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was from the Red Wog, and the orc warlord, he's coming back, and I could see both you going like, that's when you went on to that absurd conspiracy theory. Yes, it was. But I didn't. I went with the Diamor campaign, the Diamor campaign. So the Diamor system is plunged into anarchy when the combined forces of, this is a who's who, the Black Legion, the Crimson Slaughter, and the Word Bearers launch a concerted attack. That planet is hosed.
Yeah.
All right. Though their invasion is system-wide, the true objective of them, because chaos, no one expects chaos.
That's right.
Is looking for an Adeptus Mechanicus dig site on the world that has an ancient artifact, MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yep, because demonic entities and whatnot. All right.
I've got a whole room full of ancient artifacts.
Don't we? Oh. All right. A huge army of Imperial Knights is drawn from House Raven. Many of the lesser houses they own fealty fight for the Imperial counter-assault. Over 100 towering warrenches facing off against the Heretic Astartes and Renegade Titans. Though they suffer heavy casualties, the nobles of House Raven remain undaunted. And they push back against the Chaos lines, bringing down the enemy, and Titans are driven back. House Raven then strengthens their bonds of allegiance with the Forge World Metallica. Yeah, they did. The Blood Angels and the Blood Angels. And really what stood out to me of this is, because it's kind of like, that's pretty generic, right? I mean, it's a who's who of, but that's where the Knights live to me. Is they're this this linchpin. They're there as much as anybody else. They're that, and this planet's so hosed when the Crimson Slaughter, the Black Legion, and Word Bearers show up. Like, I don't like, short of a Nurgle force that's just gonna Herpetrex your whole planet. Like, I mean, that's an awful trio to show up. But I just love the idea of this bonding together and the Knights being this like central cog in the fight to defend this mechanic
and pulling in these, again, speaking of those oaths, like, hey, you guys got to help us out because we have this agreement over these last 1,000 years,
Right. And then like, how did those bonds continue to grow with the Blood Angels and Forge World Metallica?
Did.
What you got, Justin?
Yeah. He went with Battle of the Sandman.
So the bell tolls for.
Nice.
I went for this was the Demon Tide 529 M33. So this is a story that's pretty epic and pretty vivid in the imagination. I'll summarize it, but basically you have 3 Imperial sectors that are overrun by like this massive demon army, like just this huge demon, which is fearfully known as the Demon Tide.
Yeah.
And deploying against these demons are 5 knightly households.
It's a significant number of knights.
It's a lot of knights, right? So led by renowned nobles, which was basically High Queen Desmadara Terran. She basically sends all her war glaives and all the squires, the serfs, squires, to basically funnel this whole demonic tide into this kind of alleyway, right, into this cavern. And I mean, dude, you just have like 24 Castellan fighting against these things, and like 600 Questoris class knights.
That jumped
Like-
out to me when I was looking at the notes. I was
Like,
yes.
Visually, I just imagine this massive canyon and just this seething tide of demons coming through, right? And the story's full of all these amazing things that happen. Like the massive great unclean one gets harpooned and stuck down and gets cleaved apart by all these knights. But it was just like visually, like, yes, what that would make such a fun APOC game.
Or a Warhammer World diorama.
Yeah.
Dear Warhammer
Right.
World,
Right.
can you please paint us 600 Questor Knights?
Millions of, yeah.
If you could get on that right now, that'd be great.
And reading a lot of these battles and listening to you guys talk, it's just like this. These books are so full.
Okay, so let me jump in with my Chaos Knight story, because I like the Loyalist Tyranid one where I thought like, oh, this is a cool scene. I thought this was a cool
You stole
scene.
mine too, by the way.
Oh,
did I?
P.S. You stole mine. Because look
Because
at
it's awesome.
No, but,
it is
but look at the 2 houses that are involved.
Oh, well, Okay, so
Yeah.
Wounded Prey is the story of mine. And so what you have is you have this mass conveyance barge called Dark Cloud, which is carrying in it a full lance of Imperial Knights of House Morton. Waiting in its hangar. Well, the problem is the Dark Cloud gets kind of stuck in the warp. It what do they call that when a ship becalmed? Like it's when it's stuck
Adrift.
in
Adrift,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's stuck in the warp and it can't get out. And the Geller fields are kind of holding. And if you don't know, like if the Geller fields fail on a ship, basically the warp kind of floods into the ship. Demons appear and kill
bad
everybody.
things happen,
People
yeah.
meld into walls. All the ugly stuff happens. So the Geller field is holding at first, and then there's these massive objects that kind of impact with the ship's hull, and the objects turn out to be these Chaos Knights from House Comintus. And Comintus, and they've clamped themselves to the barge. So remember, a barge here is gigantic.
Yeah, it's
and
huge.
so I'm picturing these, knights on the outer hull of the barge, and they begin kind of cutting through the barge to get to everybody inside. And they're like cutting through and blasting to basically get in. And then what will happen is, the warp energy will flood into the ship. Knowing that the Dark Cloud can't survive against this assault for long, the knights on the ship kind of get in their knights and go out onto the outside hull of the ship and begin battling with the Chaos Knights there. And of course, they're pretty much doomed at this point. The Morton Knights are blasted to scrap by the Chaos Knights, and the souls of the pilots are devoured by the warp entities that are floating around there. So the minute they're outside of this Geller field, they're damned forever, and their souls are torn apart. So with its last line of defense annihilated, the Dark Cloud is just swiftly torn apart.
So
by this
epic.
chaos. And that is like a battle on the outside of the ship
Right.
is pretty amazing.
Yeah, every moment of that battle is like, that'd be a cool vignette.
Yeah. Oh, that would
That'd
look
be a
cool.
cool scene.
Yeah.
That'd make a cool diorama.
I'll be honest, like I kind of want to see that in like an anime style. Like
Oh, yeah.
I've seen, like Robotech, they've done stuff like that,
Right.
but like that would look awesome in that style.
That would be pretty good. Mine for my Trader Legion actually is a story of a Trader war dog, right? The Armiger style dying. He fails. Yeah. The story is just called Kroot Vengeance. So on the jungle world of something named a Kroot name,
it's actually Yatakra.
Yeah, you tackled it right on there. All right. So the lone war dog of House Comantus was cut down by a roving band of Kroot mercenaries. Okay, I was hooked. I'm like, yeah.
Kroot are pretty cool.
I don't like Ewoks at all, but Kroot pulling down a knight as opposed to Ewoks pulling down an AT-AT or whatever they're called.
TST, yeah.
Sure. Good. The Star Wars thing. That was cool. This is cooler.
Actually.
You just actually me. All right. But doing so, because this particular war dog is from, as mentioned earlier by me, House Comantus. I told you they were the coolest. They were the ones in your story too. They're all demonically possessed, right? So the Kroot, what do Kroot do when they kill something? They feed on it ritualistically. Yeah. So they pull the pilot out and begin feeding on him.
And when they die, they recruit.
So then what happens?
That was good.
So what
that
happens?
made me happy.
I want to know what happens.
So they feast on him. And more than a Terran year later, on a distant world, the truth of these markings become apparent. A lance of Comantus Knights are drawn to the strange markings that emerge from the Kroot's skin from eating this thing. They all start getting these strange marks on them.
Yes.
And a year later, an entire lance of Comantus Knights attack the Kroot from out of nowhere and then completely wipe them out.
That's pretty badass, actually.
I was like, okay, I can get with that.
I like that.
A little demon taint for the Kroot.
That's actually, that's great. Like they pry open the can and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna eat this soft, juicy sitter," and then like not realizing that's completely.
What a
tainted.
great moment of triumph! Like these lowly Kroot take down an Armiger. That's awesome. Is it though?
Not so much.
You didn't check didn't check the expiration date on that can.
I hope Games Workshop starts to experiment with Chaos Orcs and Chaos Kroot and all that. Because there's little pieces of artwork here and there.
And back in the day, there was heady
not even
times.
that far long ago. Like there was like Chaos Orcs and like the Black Crusade or the Abaddon's 13th Crusades, like one of those. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, Justin, what's your chaos story?
Yeah, so I chose The Price of Betrayal, M36. So word spreads across the Imperium of the death of Gog Van Dyer, who's this tyrannical High Lord of Terra.
Okay.
And there's lots of...
I know who Van Dyer is.
Yeah, he's the central baddie in the sister story.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this story goes into how sisters must die.
Ooh, okay.
But basically, those that are loyal just go ham and start just killing and murdering and bringing down all these shrines and worlds and tearing down monuments. And there's this one knight in particular, Hope's Shroud, which pretty cool name. He's a free blade knight, and he basically just goes ham. And his whole purpose in life is to avenge Van Dyer himself. Like that was his sworn oath, right? So he starts going after the Sisters of Battle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As one does. So he starts targeting the Order of the Ebon Chalice and the matriarch Alicia Dominica that slew Van Dyer.
Yep, she sure did.
And after a series of escalating battles, he cuts her head the heck off, right?
Huh. I can't imagine as a knight that'd be all that clean.
It'd probably be more like a little paste that he smears on his shoulder pad, right? And over the next millennia, the fanatical knight claims the heads of all the other canonesses.
That's very interesting.
This dude is just angry, right? But he's angry and he's loyal. And he's just killing all these Sisters of Battle.
Keeps his oath to Van Dyer.
Keeps his oath to Van Dyer.
Scumbag that he was.
Yep.
What does he do with their skulls?
Oh, they get hung from that increasingly warped, tainted armor.
This is interesting because this is like
modeling
an expansion.
Opportunities. That's all I say.
But this is also like an interesting expansion on that lore, right?
Right.
Like, that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. What became of Dominica after?
Yeah.
I mean, she's a big deal for the sisters.
She is kind of a big deal.
She got booped by
I didn't
a
know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
This is all new. So that's kind of cool
Her
that
head
they like
cleanly cut off.
Yeah. The
He's
rest
that
of her
skilled.
body, problems, but her head was still nice and clean.
Maybe he's just that skilled. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, he pulps the body. All right, let's do this. We have to talk about the models next, but I'm going to push that off till after the break because we've been going for an hour and a half. So we're going to take a short break.
Really?
We will come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Knights of Faith and Ruin. We'll talk about the models. We're going to talk about supplemental material, all that kind of stuff. So we will be right back.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb.
And this is Kat.
And we are CK Studios. We want to invite you and your friends to come paint with us at one of our exciting and fun-filled airbrush and hobby weekenders. Our weekend workshops are 2 days of intense hands-on training, working directly with and learning from some of the top gaming artists in the industry.
Whether you're brand new to miniature painting or an experienced veteran that wants to up your game, CK Studios has the workshop for you. Our workshops cover everything from learning the basics and building confidence in airbrushing, all the way up to creating that centerpiece model for your army or display case.
For more class info and our upcoming schedule, you can find us on Facebook at CK Studios Come Paint With Us, or register directly at ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
If you can't find a class near you, that's okay. Just contact us and we'll bring a workshop to you.
Okay, and we're back. And we're going to carry on with Show of Force, Engines of Faith and Ruin, and we're going to move into the models now. Let's talk a little bit about these. We each picked one because I realized the show was getting a bit lengthy by this point as I was making the notes. And I went with the Chaos Knight Rampager. Now, first off, this uses the new Chaos kit. But the interesting thing about the Rampager is it comes with that claw and the sword. It's a close combat vehicle as opposed to a shooty type vehicle. And to me, the visual of this thing is just incredible. I really, really like that it's melee focused. In my army, this is the thing I'm going to use. But the thing about the Chaos Knight kit the thing that sells it for me more than anything else are those reversed dog legs.
It adds that demonicness to
right?
it.
Yeah. I mean, every piece of this kit is a pleasure to put together too. Have you put these ones together yet?
I have not.
I'm telling you, like it is a joy to put together. It goes together amazingly well. My one drawback to it is if you want to change the pose of it significantly, you're gonna have to do some serious work.
It's a pretty common problem too.
Yeah, with all the knights.
With all the knights, yeah.
So I understand why it's like that. It doesn't give you a lot of variety in that thing, but you can kind of pose where the torso's turned, and you can change things so that it gives it a little more difference. But they're all kind of in the same stepping position.
Yeah, I mean, I chose that model as well. It's just such a good. That new Chaos Knight kit is so good.
Yeah,
I love the.
Oh, you called them goat legs. I like that better.
Yeah, kind of goat legs, and that kind of Baroque. Pre-heresy kind of feel of like the exposed cabling and I really like that they didn't overdo the spikiness on it. Like it felt very well done. It wasn't covered in chains and spikes, just really subtly done. And then, hey, if you want to add some more to it,
you can totally do that.
Yeah. And the different face plates. It's
also,
so
the
good.
Banner hanging down between the legs is just a great add-on too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I wish the default, like the new Chaos weapon it came with was a bit better. The laser destructor.
Yeah.
Because it looks really cool, but it's just in the game. I'm like,
Are you like, Okay. Well, I love this kit, and I have
so good
the old Forge World kit that I put on one of my original knights. I have two knights prior to this. I have a Loyalist one and a Chaos one, but I vastly prefer the look of this one just because of the way the legs are shaped. I think you could probably combine those two fairly easily.
Yeah, and I'm for sure going to buy that kit, and I think they'll play well together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because even the Forge World model is not overly done. I don't think.
No. I actually really like the Chaos symbol on the portion of the Chaos symbol you see on the Forge World model that's kind of breaking through. But this model is probably one of my favorite models of the year. I think it's up there. It's up there.
It's pretty exceptional. There isn't a whole lot on that kit to nitpick and gripe about. As far as like, I don't know
different
what
face
more
options. Different.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like, oh, I don't care for it. I mean, aesthetically, you cannot care for it, but as a design piece, it's gorgeous. The subtle spikes on the blast shield, for its cannon, it's a great little touch. And yeah, Justin, I think you nailed it with it's got spikes. There's no doubt it's chaos, but it's not. It's not too much. It
doesn't feel
the
forced.
Right amount.
It's the right amount. Yeah.
The right amount of taint. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, Justin, Jody, you're back.
Yeah,
Jody, take me away from this.
So I went in a weird way. I went with the.
I knew what you meant.
We all know what he meant. I went with the original predecessor of effectively what is the Chaos Knight kit, is the Knight Gallant kit, which was an upgrade question mark or an add-on to the original Knight kit that came with the Warden. And what the Knight Gallant is it's kind of the stripped down close combat straightforward version of the Knight, where you have the Thunderstrike Gauntlet and the Reaper Chainsword, and that's it. Well, I mean, he's got his Carapace weapon, but there's no ranged weaponry. And
you can't forget about the heavy stubbers.
Yeah.
You gotta remember those heavy stubbers.
That's
Do you find yourself forgetting them when you're playing?
No.
Okay.
I've only played one game with them, and I seem to remember not forgetting about them.
Okay.
Well, I think in a Knight list, no, because that's my experience was actually playing a Knight list, and I was like, man, you want every weapon you got when you only have 5 guys.
Sure,
that's true. That is very true.
It's not,
that's a good point.
When you only have 4 or 5 guys to keep track of,
That's
it's not that
so
hard to remember.
Every one of them has a stubber,
and they all have a stubber. It's the one thing they all got. But that's part of why I like the Gallant so much. Is prior to the Armigers and the Helverins being there, he fulfilled kind of a lower point cost role. He was the bargain knight. I mean, he's still durable as all get out. He's still tough as any other knight is.
Yeah.
But he has, this very specific role of run forward and apply pressure to the enemy immediately, and become an immediate problem that has to be dealt with. Because let's not forget, knights are also pretty darn effective in close combat.
Yeah.
Especially when kitted out for close combat.
Yeah.
You make one a character, yeah.
And the other thing is well, you were mentioning that any of the knight kits suffer from, you got to really want to repose them. The Gallant makes you want to repose him. Those 2 close combat weapons. There's been so many cool conversions out there of him charging forward, and he's either punching with the fist and the blades back behind him, or vice versa, or getting ready to chop down, kind of like the Ravager, whatever it may be. It's just a kit that begs for, in its simplicity, it kind of begs for you to start adjusting and manipulating it and really seeing what you can do with the old jeweler saw and adjusting for effect. So yeah, for me, the Gallant, and it'll probably be actually the one because I sold off my army, as I mentioned, and then immediately you had an extra knight, and then I think the next weekend I bought that knight from you,
right?
Wanting to do something a little bit more painting wise.
Have you
decided.
Have you even started with that?
No, I haven't decided what color scheme I want to do that's going to sit comfortably with my sister's army. That isn't, I don't want a Mechanicum loyal. I want a independent house of knights. I don't want a Mechanicum based one, which has the red and whatever. So anyway, but it will be a Gallant. I'm fairly sure, just because they're so dynamic, and all the stories we like is knights getting in there and boxing it out.
Right.
One thing that I think is great about him, and the Chaos guy has it as well, is the articulation on that gauntlet.
The hand is incredible.
Is really neat. The way that goes together.
Sculpt.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, and the marine one, the loyalist one, same deal. Like, you can get a surprising amount of expression out of those finger posings, which is another kind of cool little bit. But yeah, for me, the Knight Gallant,
just
checked all the boxes.
The detail work on both of these models is insanely good. Insanely good.
Assembly wise, Justin, because you said you've done a bunch, and I've certainly done my fair share. Both kits have this one little problematic part, and I think some tips might be worthwhile here while we're talking models. The handrails on the top, especially the ladder handrails that are on the left side of the carapace. It's left, your right side of the carapace. I know a lot of people have had problems with those either breaking when you're cutting them loose, dropping them. Which is have a plan that when you cut them loose, not to drop them. Small pieces like that. If you've got tweezers, that works great. Dab the glue. Don't put the glue on the model. Dab the piece in the glue.
Right.
I don't know. Any thoughts or suggestions there? It's just a heads up.
A common
problem because it's a very
fall over.
Fine piece on a very large model.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting like bare bones, like if you're a new hobbyist, this is probably not a good army for you to get into, because these are large advanced model kits, right? That, I mean, sure, I guess as a new hobbyist, who starts with a model like this, a whole army of models like these, right? You're usually starting with Space Marines. So I think that by the time somebody's doing an army like this, hopefully you have those kind of modeling skills down. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask that question. But yeah, tweezers, using the right glue.
Pay close attention to numbering, because certain rungs go in certain spots.
Yeah.
You can't just like switch and swap them, because there's a different curve to the carapace there.
Oh, true.
Just a heads up, those can be fiddly. So when the rest of the kit I found goes together really pretty easily, actually. But I was going, because one of the kits I bought was pre-assembled, and clearly the person had some problems there. So I got to spend some time
the
fixing.
biggest thing I could say modeling wise when it comes to doing this army is get familiar with magnets.
Yeah.
Because
You're going to want to swap out weapons on these guys.
you're going to want to swap out weapons, really easily to just have fun with it.
And for the most part, it's not hard to magnetize the weapons if you do it in the right spot.
no, super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, super easy.
Ton of resources out there for you as well to check in on.
Check YouTube for that.
For what size magnets and where and how and all that kind of thing.
So let's move on. This dovetails nicely into units of the codex. So there's not a lot of units to really discuss here across both codexes. So we each kind of limited it to just one that we were going to pick. I went with as earlier I talked about, the Knight Rampager. And the reason I chose this was, as Jody, you just mentioned, the stories we like are where the knights are getting in there and kind of duking it out, and the Knight Rampager being the close combat machine that it is, its Reaper Chainsword
Iconoclast too. Yes.
Its Reaper Chainsword is +6 to its strength of 8, so it's already hitting at a strength 14, -3 AP, and causes 6 wounds a hit. So that is meaty, not to mention its claw, which is ×2 strength. So now you're talking 16, -4 AP, 6 wounds a hit on that. So that is.
And you factor in a guy like that, a character knight or a knight with close combat weapons.
Yep.
Make him your warlord. Give him all the saucy
doodads.
bits, all the doodads, and Chaos Knights can just do ungodly amounts of damage.
For me, in my list, my concern with this is, he's a close combat model. I need to get him up to, people are going to recognize he's a threat, and they're going to want to keep him from getting close to them.
And they're going to have like one turn to shoot him down.
So I pair him with 2 war dogs that are the shooty war dogs that basically flank him and push forward shooting. So my opponent has to deal with something, and hopefully I'm trying to give him enough bad choices that I can hopefully get this guy in close enough to start.
You figure with him, he's around 500 points.
Yep.
6, 7, 8, but 900 points to your army to take that super heavy detachment, right?
Yep.
You get a lot of other stuff in your Chaos army that you should hopefully be shoving down their face as well.
Exactly.
Because your war dogs, you want to use those guys to work the flanks.
Yep.
Capture object. They're fast. They're really fast, maneuverable.
But I've also got the Havoc teams that are firing,
Havocs,
the rotor cannon things, and the way I set those guys up, there's 2 of those with 2 las cannons in each of those, so that there's a little bit of flexibility there.
Yep.
And I have two squads of those, so there's a lot to think about. Hopefully, as the army makes its way
Their
forward,
firepower is going to be going into. He's going to be a magnet for sure.
Oh yeah,
and then just rotate your ion shields. Save your command points for.
But also, if they're fighting him, they're not fighting this other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point.
The thing. When you take these things in your army, they're going to take damage, So have their command point heavy. So make sure you have a decent amount of command points to feed them. Take at least 1 battalion.
Yep.
Because you're going to be wanting to rotate ion shields at least every turn. And the stratagems in these books are so good. And a lot of them are low CP too.
Nice.
But it's solid, man. I mean, it adds such power to Chaos. Not to say Chaos was horrible, but
it helps. They needed the push up too.
Greatly, yeah.
So that's my choice. I like the Knight Rampager. I think it's a good model. Justin,
So
how about you?
I am a huge fan of Chaos Knight despoilers. Main reason being, unlike their Imperial counterparts, they can actually take 2 big guns.
Yeah.
Imperial Knights can only take 1 fist, 1 gun. So I like thermal cannons a lot.
Yeah.
I like the double battle cannon, but the Neg 2 Rend. I mean, kind of talking gaming, right?
Yep.
The Neg 2 Rend, super swingy, right? Super swingy and a lot of points. So it's basically double the points of a thermal cannon.
Mm-hmm.
So I can take 2 thermal cannons on this thing and just push them up the field, and the damage output, especially running them infernal, burning a couple potential mortal wounds to make those things just do crazy damage. So I actually I proxied the model I have. The model I have right now has a double battle cannon. I just want to try it out.
No. I think that's a legitimate
That's
use of a
why-
proxy.
It
That's
was
legit.
painted.
Yeah.
That's a high level of proxy.
That's
then.
actually, I would have even accepted base coated proxy
with brass etch on the battle cannon. You know,
I salute you. I
do
think
you
went
mind?
above and
Do you
beyond.
mind if I? Yeah. So I want to try it out, and not to say I'm going to play my next game. I'm going to try it with the double battle cannon because I still want
See
to
how
try
that
that out.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like 50 points more. You know, I'm like
Yeah.
that is like a unit of Nurglings. Like that is a whole. You know, so
Yeah.
came down to list design, but I love just the idea. Like I have to get 2 Gatling cannons,
Yeah.
the Avenger
Yeah.
Gatling cannons, and
So
just
cool looking.
plant your feet. And I'll probably when I buy one of the new Chaos Knight kits, that'll be my Avenger Gatling
Jesse
cannon.
the Knight Ventura style.
Yeah, and he'll be standing like on a rock, just screaming, and his base will just be covered in shell casings, and
Well,
that's
that'd be
beautiful,
cool.
awesome.
That would be amazing.
Falling out of the guns and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yes.
Jody.
Spoiler.
Well, Chaos Trio, but I went a little different direction. I cheated a little bit here because I'm very partial to this particular model and what it offers from a play point of view, and just to change it up because there are other knights that aren't in these 2 codexes that are out there that are reasonably accessible. So I went with the Khitan Demon Engine of Khorne. This is the Lord of Skulls giant torso tank tread
Conversion.
conversion kit.
So good. And
That-
you painted
now
one
it's a-
recently.
I did
It's
fairly
a
recently.
Forge World conversion kit for that model.
Right.
So not a cheap option either, right?
No.
so you have to buy the lawnmower.
No,
and-
you get the whole deal.
Oh, you do?
No, you get the whole
Oh,
deal.
I thought you had to buy
Dude,
both. Oh,
God,
that's
no.
that's not as bad.
No, you get the whole deal. So you're good to go there. And
Like, what are you going to do with all the rest of those parts?
yeah,
mow your lawn.
Yeah.
Well, then is it? And so
Make a-
basically,
make a
what you got? It's like one of those beer hats because it's got the giant gas tanks on it. Beer for the beer god, am I right? What were we talking about?
The Khitan.
Oh, right. Which is actually a cool model.
Yeah, it's a really cool looking model. Honestly, it takes the model that I hate. We talked about it.
Right.
Carl likes everything. Not that model. It takes that model, and Carl likes it after that.
It's a great
Super posable too, right?
very posable, which is
Interesting.
the problem with it. Like,
Oh, really?
well,
That's a good problem.
it's a good problem, but it's a Forge World kit, so hey, you know what you're in for. But even for a Forge World kit, it has the goat legs.
Yeah.
The hip joints are ball and socket joints.
Yeah.
So that's resin on
Gotta
resin
pin.
ball
Yep.
joint. So you're going to pin. And I would recommend on top of pinning, I'm a big fan of the crosshatch etching.
Yep, that's
like
what
you
I
do
do.
with ceramics.
Oh yeah, for sure.
scrape it up and
Yeah. So those,
And you probably want to use some resin.
if you've got that
epoxy
available,
resin. Yep,
or just true resin, because resin bonds to resin like resin. So, true like 2-part resin, if you've got
Oh,
it, works
interesting.
beautifully
Yeah,
as
okay.
well.
Bob Naismith kind of 2-part. Yep.
So the real bugger of that kit is that the knee joint on the reverse goat leg is a tongue and groove, and there is no catch. So you've got 2 prongs on one end of the leg and then a single prong that goes in the middle. And if there was any flex at all, it's just free floating.
Oh, interesting.
So you're going to have to do potentially a little heat and bend to get some tension on there.
Yep.
All that pain and suffering, though, I would take over the plastic. Like these are your legs.
These are your legs.
Yeah.
And it does open up, you can have it stepping, lunging,
Yeah.
standing tall. And if it stands tall,
I'll tell you,
tall.
I have seen some amazing poses. Like even at Forge World, if you go through at Warhammer World, if you go through the Forge World store, you can see everything, and they have some poses of some of these knights that I'm like, oh man, that is a really cool pose, and you can only achieve that with these models.
Right. And so what I did, just if anybody is all excited about the Khitan Demon Engine and wanting one for their army, I just went online and looked at the various poses.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of eyeball what is the angle
Right.
of that mid leg to the other 2 portions. And
This
I looked
is
at 2 or
tricky
3.
because I people joke about it, but when I'm posing like Contemptor Dreadnoughts, I'll say how I stand in that pose. You can't do that with the reverse leg
Because
thing.
unless
break your leg.
lest you have goat legs.
It'd be an awkward conversation when the wife walks in.
Yeah. What are you doing, babe?
What's on with your goat leg?
Hobbying. What are you doing?
Being.
Hobbling.
Wow, this joke had some legs.
Hobbling
All right.
myself. Yeah.
So why did I pick
Great
this
model,
one?
by the way.
Other than it's a cool model,
Yeah.
which it is. It's a knight given the full Khorne treatment. Its axe is effectively the axe, the sweeping attack of the Bloodthirster with the double-handed axe. I can never keep straight rage, fettered, fury, anger.
I know which one.
Red, skull,
bro.
Yeah.
shinbone. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got the multi attacks. He also has the Gatling cannon on his hand, which works beautifully for ranged attacks. The one thing that he offers to a Khorne demon army, because he is a Khorne demon, as well as being a knight.
I was gonna say a gun, but you have skull cannons.
Well, a reliable gun, because they're random shots. His is too, but it's a lot of them. Is durability is the thing I was gonna say. There is not much durability in really.
Yeah, Khorne's pretty glass hammery. Huh?
Yeah, it's very. You're trucking around your 5-up save all the time.
Right.
One of the great things is he does have a constant invul save as a demon. So he's got his high toughness, his high armor, and then I want to say he does have a 4-up demonic save.
Probably a 5-up.
Wow.
Or is it a 5?
It's probably a 5-up.
Well, it might just be because I'm thinking he's got the regular 20 whatever wounds and toughness whatever and.
Just
he's tough to kill.
Cool model, fun to play with, right? Have you got some games in?
Yeah, I took him up to Boise this summer, so he was part of my Khorne demon army.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I got to play with him a lot, and along with Bloodthirsters, him and then a pair of Bloodthirsters jumping around out there is immediate pressure. And
what do you shoot at?
Right, and
everything's fast.
A durable piece of pressure that shoots. I'll tell you what, in the games my opponents elected to kill the Bloodthirsters and not him, they felt like that was a bad call.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The temptation to have a second is out there, but the cost and effort of making a second is diminished. Also,
he doesn't get to pull from any of the book strats, right?
Probably not.
I wouldn't imagine.
I wouldn't think so. The reality is the stratagems for the Khorne demon army are
not so great. Yeah.
I mean,
so he pulls
pure
from
Khorne.
No.
So I mean,
is he stratless?
Yeah. So, but with a pure Khorne, with a pure demonic,
he gets a reroll.
With a pure demonic army, unless you are Nurgle, you're going to be so strapped for command points. That's a benefit, not a liability.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this, I mean, the reality is there was a reason I was at a 60, 70 person tournament. I was the only person playing a Khorne demon army. It's not a competitive army.
Yeah.
Like it's not competitive.
Sure.
But within that, what is that army and what can it offer? He fills a really wonderful role.
Yeah.
Plus he looks really rad, as mentioned. Yeah. So,
and you don't see a lot of them.
No.
Which is kind of nice.
It is. And he is a knight though. Make no mistakes about it. In every way other than his weaponry, he's a knight.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just doesn't get all the cool
well played. There's actually
nudges.
quite a few knights, and we'll talk about some of those in just a minute. But so in competition, I will say, in my experience having gone to Nova, LVO, Adepticon, you do see quite a few knights on tables, either in a supplementary fashion or just flat out knight armies. That being said, I haven't heard any of them making top tier kind of winning events and that kind of thing. I think one of the things they struggle with is they don't have a lot of units, so board control becomes a little difficult too, especially in objective grabbing missions.
Yeah. So the Castellan had its moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Like that was the big thing you heard about was the Castellan with like the Loyal 32 and the basic little Imperial Guard regiments feeding command points to this big 3-up invulnerable save Titan of Doom, right?
Right.
But yeah, nowadays
that has changed though now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
you can't
the big
feed the
nerf, quote unquote, was like they could not have a 3-up invul. It got nerfed to a 4-up, which is huge.
Can they still feed the command points over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Couldn't remember if you could.
Between points increases and then going from a 3-up to a 4-up, the Castellan he's still good.
Still good, but that's right. I forgot
he's
about
just
the
not
huge
an
point
auto
increases.
take because he was wrecking things for a long time. A 3-up invul on a model like that is asinine.
And that's super good. I guess my thing is you can't call that a knight list, though, right? But
no,
you do have a knight within that list,
right? I think but you still see knights. Like you said,
you're hard pressed to
tables.
see tables without them.
Yeah, especially like Chaos armies. Like I would gladly go to a tournament with a list that I brought the other day against Bob.
Yeah, I have not. I think it hasn't been out long enough to really show up yet. The Chaos Knights Codex, like it hasn't been out that long.
There's guys that are rocking the list,
yeah.
There's guys out there that are doing it, and
but I'm
there's
curious to see results from that, right? But other things are kind of strong right now.
Yeah.
So as it happens.
Competitive play, like, right, it's all over the place. Everybody was like going, oh my gosh, Marines are gonna like ruin everything, and like Tau are winning all these tournaments.
Yeah. Marines are no joke, though.
Marines are no joke.
Yeah.
But it's also a brand new book, right? So everybody's like, oh, we thought Marines were gonna win all these tournaments, and Tau won. The book's been out like a month.
You know what's going to be interesting, and I don't have insight into this. Like, this is not something I'm releasing, but Psychic Awakening is going around touching every army. Eventually, it's going to touch these two. They've said it's going to touch every single army, so it will touch Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights at some point. Even though I think, oh yeah, I bet you it does.
I mean, my first experience playing with Knights.
I'm just curious to see what that does, because that will probably shift things a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that 40K is so lethal right now that it's not like when the army first came out and it was just, oh, Ermagerd, what are we doing here? We can't hurt these things. 40K is so lethal and fun and amazing. Like, it's the best edition ever. But I think that Knights are kind of less of an issue.
Right.
You know, I've played against them a lot with my buddy Bob, and it always seems like, I hate these things, but it's also he rolls really good. So that's probably it. But they're killable. Like, you just have to focus your fire. You have to know that you're going to lose a lot of stuff.
Yeah. They do degrade. I mean,
they do degrade.
So, like, knocking them down a peg is great, but removing them is even better.
It feels so good when you kill one.
It really does. Like,
and when they blow and blow big, it feels even better because they usually blow big. So it's just fun. It's a really fun army to play with and against. You know,
you go to a competition though, you're gonna see them.
Yeah,
like, be ready for it.
Even in friendly games, you know, I don't know. I guess the question is, are we at the point where you need to have that conversation of, hey, I'm going to bring my Knights? Are you ready?
I think we're moving beyond it. I really think we're moving beyond it.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I think that we're not there yet, but I think we are definitely moving in that direction. It's become. I think there's less of a stigma to it than there used to be. There's still a little bit of a stigma.
I think
I still like to have somebody tell you, hey,
in a friendly,
but I think some of that's a holdover.
In a friendly, for sure. You know, in a friendly, like, hey, I want to bring my Knight list. Cool.
Oh,
bring
great! I was going to bring all Gaunts.
Or, you know, yeah, and I would say in a friendly pickup, not a like we're tournament prepping or something like that. I mean, tournament prep is absolutely
whole different animal.
And the reality is, and Justin, my understanding is in tournaments, you're not seeing Knight pure lists. Like, they are pretty uncommon. That is a luxury choice,
I think you're right.
Not a true competitive choice.
Right.
Supplementary, sure.
You're seeing them.
Right.
They are not advancing.
Right. Yeah, they are much like any. I mean, you see every army, but they aren't considered in any way one of like, oh, just running a Knight Codex is a top tier move. No, you're going to be hard pressed.
I guess to me, I feel like even with the different units, like I feel like it's kind of a. And this is harsher than it sounds, but it feels like almost a one-trick pony when you just have like, oh, I have my 5 Knights, and you're like, okay, I got some shooty ones, I got some, you know.
The problem is board control,
right?
Yeah,
in a sentence, right, or 2 words. I mean, it's really board control. Like, you don't have that many models to move around.
No,
and especially like, you know,
and if you lose one,
ITC is kind of a big thing in the competitive scene.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
they're all about like you're either standing here or you're killing something. And if you can't stand there, you're losing half the battle. So that's why I think you see a lot of people that are just taking 1 or 2 really good Knights in their list.
And then supplementing
and then taking lots of infantry for the command points, because these things are command point hungry to do their horrible atrocities on the battlefield. And then having boots on the ground, like it's a big thing.
Yeah. So you see them supplementary more.
That being said, real quick, have you guys watched that play? Are you familiar with Play On battle reports?
No.
Check them out. I want to do this, Carl. We're all gonna do this. Knight on Knight, like just having a board set up with just pure Knights on pure Knights.
Oh yeah.
And they had this bat rep set up where it was that. It looked
that sounds
so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think where these things really step up is like, I'd love to see a bunch of them in Apocalypse games. I'd love to see, you know, where you can really, they're easily accessible as opposed to Warlord Titans, which are not easily accessible, or Assembly, you know, and all that for people. They are like, you can get a super heavy out there pretty easily, or Lord of War now that we call them Lord of Wars. And you can have a bunch of them and fight each other with them. And not even to mention that if you're just doing Knight on Knight battles, there were those rules in the Renegade box set that were specific for like knight versus knight battles, and they had like
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about
they
that.
had like
Yeah.
the sheet that had like the different damage sections,
Yeah.
and you'd roll for where the damage took place.
You
and
could totally
stuff.
do that,
Yeah, I mean, I would totally play that. I would totally play that.
Heck yeah.
I'll do it right now. I got 2 Chaos Knights and
Big stompy robots.
And to speak nothing of, if you want to just really embrace the narrative, the dirty dozen goes out to take out a knight, or an equitable number of points to a knight, and you get a knight, and then build a scenario around that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
cool is that stuff? We talked about that with big Tyranid monsters.
put a huge bunch of a terrain in there, so the knight's like kind of moving through the terrain. You're having to, you can get some cover, and it'd be fun.
I like
It'd
it.
be fun. Okay, so let's talk Black Library books around this. Now there are a number of Black Library books out there where you can see knights kind of represented, and I'll just quickly go through a few of them. There's Imperator, the Wrath of the Omnissiah by Gav Thorpe. Also, you have King's Blade and Knight's Blade by Andy Clark. Those are kind of part 1 and part 2. There's 3 Horus Heresy books that really leap out at me. The Vengeful Spirit by Graham McNeil, also by Graham McNeil, Mechanicum. Then you have Titan Death by Guy Haley, where there's just titans and knights and everything exploding in that book. I really enjoyed that book.
Nice.
And then you have Freeblade, A Knight of the Imperium by Graham McNeil, which I believe is a spinoff of the game Freeblade, which I'll talk about in a bit.
It seems like that one could be really fun. I'd like to get inside the mind of a free blade.
It'd be kind of interesting to see. I haven't read it.
I've heard good things about Imperator.
Yeah, I have as well. I have not read actually any of these books. For the number of books I read, like I have not.
That was going to be my next question. Have you read all of these?
I have not read any of these,
Mr. Librarian.
because I haven't really been hot on knights until like we kind of did this
Certainly.
coverage.
These shows, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are not immune. Hell's Reach also features.
Oh, does it? Oh, it does.
Is it a knight or a titan? It's a titan. I'm a big liar. Please disregard my comments.
Yeah. So for supporting supplements, I talked earlier, there was this night supplement that had come out. I wish I could find it. And I'm positive that the book sold out super fast, but it was like this detailed thing about the heraldry and stuff. I am certain our listeners are going to correct us on this one
They usually
relatively
do.
soon.
Yeah.
And then there's the Imperial Knights Renegade box set that had come out. And that's just what I was talking about. That came with like that game that you could play where it was knight versus knight. And that was because, it was kind of where they were just trying to sell a box with 2 knights and a little bit of terrain, and they threw this game in on top of it. And the game's actually supposed to be pretty fun, and I never played it. So
That was where my knight army came from. Never played it either, but I got a great deal on one of those box sets at a swap meet, and was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm doing a knight army because that's
the night I sold you came from that box set.
There
I was
you
like,
go.
I don't need another one of these, and now I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sold that. No, I'm good. If I'm going to add more knights, they're going to be more Chaos Knights.
My
So,
boy.
and then there have been a few video games that kind of talk about this. Dawn of War 3, you can build up to Wraith Knights, and you can build up to Imperial Knights there. And there's an awesome video. Like, the game didn't do particularly well, and it's honestly,
Yeah, I've not heard much good about
it wasn't
3.
look,
but
I think people were pretty harsh in the video game industry. Like, we think people are critical in this.
the cinematics were awesome.
Video game industry people are incredibly harsh. The art style was a little more cartoonish, but the video
cinematics,
promo
though.
was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can see like the 2 knights going at it. It's pretty awesome. Also, there's Inquisitor Martyr in that game, which also didn't do particularly well, but I played it quite a bit. There is it's kind of like Diablo, but
I downloaded it and could not get it to run.
Oh, interesting.
Like,
You might want to try it now because they've patched it a lot. But anyway, there is a scene in there where you're driving a knight around this field, like stomping on stuff and killing heretics and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
First person kind of thing?
No,
Or
no,
like
it's
Diablo
third
style.
person. It's,
Oh,
but
third,
you're
yeah.
literally driving around, just smashing through walls and blowing guys up. It's actually pretty fun. It only lasts for a few minutes.
Man, it really would be
particular
cool
scene.
if they released like a first person, like you're in that night.
That would be kind of cool.
Just
That would be pretty cool. They've done some stuff like that for BattleTech way back in the day, but
it was good.
yeah. And then you have the video game Freeblade, Warhammer 40,000 Freeblade for mobile iOS devices. And that game's actually really fun. And it makes for a good way to test out paint schemes that you maybe want to try.
Oh, it's got a little
as
template.
well. Yep, you can kind of design
Color
your
mixer.
own little color mixer on it, and it's pretty handy in that capacity as well. For Forge World support, you have the Forge World Astra Militarum Index under the Questor Imperialis section. You have all the Forge World Knights that they have, the Lancer, the Styrex, the Porphyron, like all of them, the Castigator, all that stuff.
Such cool models.
Those models
They're
are
so good.
so cool, and we've barely touched on those, but like those are absolutely
The
valid.
Porphyron is just like
Ridiculous. It's redonkulous.
that's a hunk of resin right there. Man.
Yeah, buddy. And then the Forge World Chaos Index has under the Trader Questoris section, again, all the Renegade, Acheron, Lancer, Castigator, et cetera, et cetera. The same ones, but now they're all quote unquote Renegade ones.
Spiky.
And they're pretty impressive as well. Okay. And then Adeptus Titanicus.
It does have knights.
It has knights in it.
Little bitty knights.
Little bitty knights,
Not made out of lead.
But they're adding more and more. No, and the models are incredible for something that size.
They have the regular knight and then like the Porphyron.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And then they have Lancers.
Oh, they do have Lancers.
Yep. And they're going to be adding more.
Sweet.
So I think you'll see all that represented.
Last swap meet I was at, this is going to get me mocked. So here you go. I bought boxes of knights because I didn't have any and got a deal at a swap meet on some knights. So I was very anxious to.
Which ones?
Those.
The regular ones?
One is the regular. And I want to.
Yeah. Is
the Gallon a separate box or is that?
I don't think so.
So I think it was a couple boxes. The Joe Schmoes.
And they're useful in the right circumstances in Adeptus Titanicus.
I did watch a bat rep and it was a night fight for Adeptus Titanicus.
Oh, that
would
be
just
pretty
knights,
fun.
and they seem to have. I mean, the guys seem to really
be fun.
having fun.
Yeah.
Not that people on bat reps are like, this is lame.
But I also watched Josh lose like 6 knights in one attack.
I
And
did
it was
too.
like,
That was rad.
oh, wow. Oh, that's right. You were playing that game.
So we should have hidden them maybe
He
to camp on an objective.
he was trying. No,
Are there objectives?
there are, but not like you're thinking. He was trying to. Where the knights become important in that game is they have to get a charge off, and getting charges off is actually quite difficult in Adeptus Titanicus. But if you can get a bunch of knights in a charge off against kind of any other real Titan, like they're going to cause some damage. Yeah,
just their firepower is not quite.
Well, and then in close combat, the Titans don't get their shields either, so now they're just hacking at them with swords and
Makes
stuff.
sense.
Yeah. Okay. So summarizing, why is the army fun? What makes it unique? I said at the beginning, I prefer knights as a supplement to a force. I think they add some great punching power. They're fire magnets, so they draw a bunch of fire. But I think both thematically and strategically on the table, I think they can offer a lot to bump up the presence of an army. I think I haven't really been interested in running an entire knight list. Maybe that'll change someday, especially with the chaos stuff, because I'm so chaos happy on it. But I think a knight list can be a challenge for people to play against if they're not ready for it, especially in friendly games, as we were just discussing. In a tournament, you better be prepared because you're going to eventually run into something like that. But also it's a challenge for the player too, as we talked about in board control and holding objectives and that, especially in the LVO format. You're going to struggle a little bit with just 5 knights on the table. So you'll probably see more, what do they call them? Not war dogs for chaos, but
The Armigers?
Armigers. You might see some of that sprinkled in.
The Ermigers?
Yeah, but yeah, again, I think the army thematically, I'm kind of on board now in terms of the units to supplement my force. I think it adds some cool flavor to it.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that looks like fun. I have not played with the Chaos Knight yet, so I'm looking forward to finally getting this thing out
really
on the
fun.
table. I'm probably going to get my teeth kicked in a bunch of times initially, but I think I'm going to fall back on that knight as a
Hard to
crutch
get
for a little
your
bit.
teeth kicked in when you have a big stompy robot
And your
or
head's
3,
up at the top.
and your head is high up there.
Yeah.
And I'll say when your knight does die, or my Khitan died a lot, it's still satisfying. Like
Yeah.
you're like, it took you a
lot.
lot of that.
Yeah.
Like you
Meanwhile-
had to want that, and meanwhile the rest of my army is doing what it does.
We'll see if what I've put together does anything, but at least I'll have a start of a Black Legion army.
There you go.
So,
Well, you're taking regular Chaos Space Marines in your
Yep.
Chaos Space Marine list, so
and Terminators.
you're going to need Terminators are good.
Yep, but they're not all armed with chained axes.
That's fine.
No, I like
It's totally fine.
I like my
the
theme.
diversity.
I got my
yeah,
theme.
yeah. You're good.
And yeah, I'm struggling with the expense of the Chaos Space Marines at this point and where they sit there. But you know what? It's a
Chaos
Black
Space Marine
Legion
Army.
list. And
You have to have at least one squad.
I have 20 cultists in there too.
There you go.
So yeah, okay. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Jody?
Giant stompy robots that feel like you're playing with toys. What's not to freaking like?
yeah.
Did come from.
They are fun to, even physically, like
Yeah,
tactile.
yeah.
They're fun to move across the table.
Yeah, and build. And
Yeah.
I mean, I am not necessarily a sound effect painter when I'm painting. I'm not making a ton of noises.
Oh, no.
I know I've just let you down. I'm sorry. But when I was playing with the knight, and I do say playing with the knight and building him and painting him, there was a whole lot of like that kind of stuff. Like it's just a big, cool, stompy robot toy, and it made me happy, and I don't care who knows it. I love my robots. So why did I sell the army then? It was very samey. It was very samey. At that night, I'm not quite at Colin status. Few are of cycling projects.
Yeah.
But when I finish an army and play it a couple times, if it's not my jam, it doesn't make me wince in any way to punt the army after it's painted.
This is why I was able to sell off my my corn army. Right. Like I enjoyed it. I played it for a while, and then I felt like, yeah, my strategy is race forward, chop. Right. You know, and after a while, I was like, I had fun. I'm ready to get rid of it. The best part about that army was a Chaos Corn Lord wielding a demon weapon and rolling 2d6 and occasionally rolling double sixes and wading in with like 17 attacks on a charge. And
What's
you're
not
just
to like?
This is amazing. You know, it was totally worth the ones I rolled the whole time. I must have rolled at least 5 or 6 times double sixes with that army. That was the best.
That's random's fun.
But I agree with you. Like selling off something when you're not, you know, isn't doing it for me. I'm gonna unload
and
it.
so I am definitely of the mind of, as we said, of a supplementary force, maybe more than a standalone force. What I will say though about this army that makes it fun and makes it unique is oftentimes when you read narratives about armies and then you play the game, there's a disconnect. There's a little man, my Howling Banshees aren't just cutting through squads of Marines with impunity. They do that in the story, and they sure aren't doing that on the tabletop. That's disappointing. My Marines can't take on your entire army, these 5 guys. That's disappointing. Knights don't have this problem.
No, they pretty much match
They feel like they are stomping face and rampaging through an army.
Yeah, for sure.
When they are out there doing their thing, they feel like giant engines of death.
Yeah.
So if you want the narrative to feel like the tabletop,
Play Knights.
this is your jam.
All right.
This is your jam.
Justin.
I think piggybacking off the big stompy robot thing. I definitely agree with that. I mean, that's obviously why you would play an army of big stompy robots. It's kind of cool, but also the ability to have, through both Chaos and Imperial rules, to have at least one of those guys be a character, big stompy robot, and have all these rules that
I love characters as like vehicles as characters.
Yeah,
I love
and
that. I
there's
love
not-
dreadnoughts as characters. I like knights as characters. Cool.
And it makes them very, very effective when you can heroically intervene with a knight, you know, and he's got like 18 attacks and he's re-rolling ones and stomping on things and just, oh, it's my turn. I'm going to fall back out of combat over you and charge your back line and just destroy everything. It's awesome.
I thought you were getting emotional.
I thought you were going to cry. No.
You had to cough.
I just want to die. No, they're so awesome as characters, right? And I am dying. Long day. And then the centerpiece work you can get on these models, just pouring all your love into these models is beautiful.
Yeah. They are. There is a lot to play with there if you're painting it too. A lot of opportunity for cool freehand if you're into that, or adding various transfers and that kind of thing. So
Yep.
And I didn't embrace that enough when I did my army of like, I didn't, even though I had the codex and read through it and was like, this color scheme's cool. Like I didn't feel like each one of them was this heraldic thing.
Yeah.
This ancient,
I think you need to really
powerful being.
embrace the knighthood
Yeah.
aspect of it.
And I think I couldn't agree with you more, Justin. That opportunity,
Yeah.
I didn't do it and I regretted it, and the army's gone.
You're
because
making
of it.
me rethink my approach to my knight. Actually, I think I'm gonna like go full on.
I mean, how many are in your army, right?
Just one. Yeah. So it
Boom.
should. Yeah.
If
You're
that
right.
if that takes you a month, I mean, I don't even know how much time I've put into my one night spoiler
Yeah.
from the class, and then just going back on him and sponging weathering onto him and freehanding
That's a good
things.
idea.
And
Yeah. And you can always go back to it.
And yeah,
I think as a learning tool, they're a great kit for learning on because they're so big.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of fun, cool stuff, especially if you want to learn an airbrush.
Yeah.
can't wait to teach my 103 classes.
Well, speaking of teaching classes in CK Studios, let's do this. We're going to take a break. I have an interview with CK Studios coming up where we talk to Kat and Caleb. So we'll talk to them for about 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll come right back and we'll close out the show.
If you're a true follower of chaos, enjoy killing Tau scum, fry devilfish for breakfast, drink the blood of fire warriors, collect the bones of Kroot fodder, desecrate the cockpits of mantas with demonic sigils, sing songs of chaotic praise and joy, when berserkers chain axe overwatching broadsides, helldrake bellflame shield drones into flying discs of spinning fire, and just all around bask in the path to glory, then the Shrine of Chaos podcast is a must-listen for you. I'm Mini Wargamer Dave from MiniWargaming.com, and I invite you to be a champion of chaos. Listen to the Shrine of Chaos podcast wherever podcasts are downloadable. Thank you, independent characters, for allowing this message from the Eye of Terror.
All right, and I'm back, and we're here with Kat and Caleb again. How you guys doing?
Been a while.
Are you a little tired?
Jet lag is real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
So speaking of jet lag, let's talk about why you were so jet lagged. You guys were out at, you were in multiple places, but the one I really want to talk about was you went to Nottingham to Games Workshop headquarters and gave some instruction on how to use airbrushes to some folks out there. How did that come about, and how did it go?
That was extremely exciting. We had an absolutely great time out there. I think we've just kind of been working a little bit with some of the people at GW for a while at events and different things like that. And so it just kind of it kind of all evolved into a direction where we could come over and kind of help their team get comfortable with some of their airline products and the paint line, the air paint line specifically. And so went over and did some training for that. And Caleb can probably talk a lot more about that experience because he did all the training with it and did a fantastic job putting together some workshops for it. We did 3 workshops over a couple of days for them.
I was going to say, did these
exciting stuff?
Did these change from your typical 101, 102, 103 type stuff, or how did these? Caleb, what did you find to be their experience with airbrushes prior to the event? I mean, they'd probably played with them a little bit prior to this.
Oh man, every class was all over the place.
Okay.
We didn't, I don't know how to say this nicely. We didn't really know exactly what they wanted, coming into it. And we were brought over by the marketing division side of it. Obviously, we do a lot of events with, the great guys over there. We see them at Adepticon and LVO and all that stuff. So they've sat in on a few of our classes at the different conventions and stuff like that. And when we got there, I don't know. I guess we just didn't really know what to expect. So we walk in and we get set up. We knew we were doing classes. I kind of had a basic idea of what classes I wanted to do. And I wanted to do a semi-generic class, Obviously we were gonna talk a lot about the Citadel range, the Citadel paint. The Citadel air paint range.
Yeah. Not airlines. Games Workshop isn't starting an airline.
Exactly.
and it also has to be a paint range, not just a air range. Sorry, inside jokes are the worst thing to say.
That's for sure
on videos. Anyways, so we were planning on talking a lot about the Citadel line, the Citadel range of paint. We definitely wanted to go in there and encourage them to take a second look at the glazes. Everybody who's taken a CK Studio classes listen to me just gush over glazes. So we wanted to really show those products along, of course, with the inks and stuff like that. So I kind of had a basic idea for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Well, we walk into the first class and it's Pedro and Borge, Dylan. It's all the
whole bunch of Forge World painters.
Okay,
right. It's the Forge World painters. It's the guys that are painting the non-metallic metals,
right?
Dorn,
right?
You know what I mean? You go in and sit in a class, and you're going to show these guys how to airbrush. I mean,
it's another tool, and if they're not familiar with it, right? I don't know how familiar they were or not with airbrushes at that point.
Yeah, and that's where we were. So, I mean, we kind of talked to them a little bit just before the class started to get kind of a feel for where they're at. And it seemed like they had a lot of experience with airbrushing and stuff like that. So we were just like, all right, let's do a class. So obviously we modified the class for them.
Right. See, I think that's you have the benefit of having taught so many different classes at this point, and you have the skill level as a teacher, not just a painter, but as a teacher, to be able to adjust on the fly like that. I've seen you do it in other classes with specific students too. So
it was so impressive to watch him do that.
Yeah, I mean, while you may have kind of felt like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing here? I have no doubt that you could rise to that occasion.
It was absolutely amazing because I do my introduction at the beginning of our classes and I grill everybody, get a feel for what everybody's skill level is at and their experience and kind of what they're expecting or hoping to get out of it.
Right.
And during my intro, Caleb is putting together his class.
Right.
Based on their answers.
Right.
And he just, I mean, in perfect Caleb form, nailed it and brought it to the point where these guys were walking out saying they really learned a lot from him and their experience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the magic Caleb has. And you know what it's like to sit in his class. He's such a phenomenal instructor. And I know I'm bragging on him, but I'm being literal. He's such a phenomenal instructor. And he just, all right, game on. We're going to do it this way then. And went for it.
Yeah.
And it was neat. And every single workshop ended up being like that.
Very cool.
Which was a fun experience. And getting to share with them a product line that they, of course, have out there. And it's one that we've been teaching on now for a year and a half, going on 2 years. And their team needed an introduction to it, needed to learn how to use this product, one of their own products.
Sure.
So it was really kind of fun to share that with them and get them excited about something they carry.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, because if they're not using airbrushes yet, they're providing an airbrush line. I didn't even really consider that, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, and that was part of what we were there to do, was really get their team on board to use, this product and get it in there too. And the fact that we've been teaching on it and we use it because we really like the product. I mean, sincerely enjoy using that product line. It's so easy to teach on. It's so user friendly. You can take it into a beginner class and everybody can figure out how to use it, or take it into an advanced class and they can take advantage of other things. And so to be able to really speak to the product itself made that really successful for them. And I would really think that we made good waves for them to be able to start using that in office.
I know those of us in this group that are using the Games Workshop air paints are very happy with them. Like, I think the results they work very well for me. I have yet to have any issues and they kind of get the results I'm looking for out of them. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys spent 3 days there teaching classes, or 3 different classes?
Three different classes over 2 days.
Over 2 days.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So the first day, they were pretty small classes. There were only 5 students large, but they had so many people interested, or departments. The way GW is structured is it's pretty incredible. It was very eye-opening for me. I had no idea that a company was developed that way. It is definitely not a hobby company, and we have been to quite a few hobby companies. And this is a business.
Oh yeah,
this is a legit, structured business.
Yeah,
and it was it was just so impressive. I mean, it was so impressive.
I think you say that though. You say it's not a hobby company, but the interesting thing I found is, yes, it's a business and it's treated as a business. It has to be. It's a public company and publicly traded. But the reality is the people developing the games and painting and doing all that stuff are incredibly passionate about this as a hobby and incredibly passionate about what they do. So, I mean, I just want to make sure, like you're saying, it's not a hobby company. I mean, I think what you're saying is the company's not treated like a hobby, right?
Right.
Exactly.
The company is not treated like a hobby. The hobby is top to bottom in there. And we met managers that came from Chase Bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weren't in the hobby. They came to work there because of their skill set.
Yeah.
GW hired professionals that, that had to do certain jobs. And those guys have given over 100% to the hobby. Getting to see them come up and show us models that they painted after taking, sitting in on one of the classes at a convention. And you're just like, wow. I mean, to see the change in those guys, because there were a few guys that we met that were relatively new to the company, and to see them embrace it. And I mean, they were telling us GW kind of insists that everybody takes an hour of hobby a day, or more.
Yeah.
I would love to have a job like that where my boss is like, hey, you're not hobbying enough. Like, you need to put your work away, and I really want to see your army out for the next hour.
You haven't kept up with your paint quota.
Yeah. And it's company wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's mad respect for them as a business. And like Caleb was mentioning, we got to work with so many people from a tremendous variety of the departments there on that campus.
Yeah.
And everyone comes to the table fully invested in their jobs and fully invested in their interest in the hobby. And that marriage is just an amazing thing there. Really have a lot of respect for that company, and what they want to do for the community was top at all times. The community talk at all times was so present, and what they want to do for people was so present. And you're talking about us, the recipients of what they do.
Right.
And it's so incredibly important to them. And part of the training experience was doing just that, making sure that they're all on the same page that the rest of us are on. And that was kind of really neat to see and be kind of embedded in it. And we did work there for 5 days. I mean, we got to do a lot of really fun things with the different departments there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I was so excited that you guys got to go do that. And I mean, what a unique experience. So I'm super glad that you shared pictures from it and stuff. That was really cool. So let's talk a little bit about upcoming things you guys have going on, because we're constantly getting asked, where's the next class and this kind of thing. And we have links to your pages and everything. But let's talk a little bit about what you have going on leading into 2020.
Well, we've got the big kickoff for the year.
Oh, this is right.
The big event at the Astronomicon. It's going to become somewhat of a yearly kickoff for the year.
Oh, it is?
In January. It's the way we're going to launch every year. It's so fun.
Yeah,
we had such a great time last year.
By the way, Carl, we're going to go ahead and make the Astronomicon a yearly thing.
So last year we did it.
Come up with a name for it.
Last year we did it. I think we had like a dozen people here at my house, in my painting area or in my hobby area, and you guys taught a class for 2 days. I think it was the 101 class you did at that time. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a little more intimate than your larger classes. But it was a lot of fun, and we got to meet and hang out with some cool people, and it was a great time. Yeah. So we're
looking at that.
That's January 11th and 12th, right?
Yep.
And where would people sign up for that?
I'm going to, now that we're, the sign up and registration for it is going to be on our Big Cartel site.
Okay.
So it's ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
Okay.
By the time this is live, it'll be up and ready for people to go. I wanted to wait until we had a chance to kind of announce it with you to get that up and let people get a chance to sign up for it.
Cool.
Do the mad dash, because I think last year, didn't we sell out in 12 hours or something like that?
Yeah, we barely announced it and it had sold out.
Exactly.
It was
but
fun.
Caleb's got some really fun ideas about this class, so we're not going to do the 101. Will you kind of talk a little bit, Caleb, about what you're planning on doing for it? Because it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, this is going to be another one of those unique events, those one-offs that we're not really going to offer. It's too hard to offer to a large group, but we want to make sure it's tailor-made, and so this is going to be kind of a free. I would say it's going to be kind of free-flowing.
Okay.
What the goal is that each student is going to bring a vehicle and some infantry of their army of choice.
Okay.
So we're not going to force people to paint a dreadnought, and they're like, "Well, I don't play dreadnoughts, or I don't play 40K." It can be Age of Sigmar, it can be Infinity. It can be what they're interested in, and we're going to go over a few techniques that I use. Mainly, they're going to be kind of commission painting style techniques, but we're going to go over a few techniques that we feel that we can really share with people. Give them a little insight into some of the neater little tricks that you can do both with the paintbrush and the airbrush. It'll definitely not be just an airbrush only class.
Oh, very cool.
Though it will feature a lot of airbrushing.
So I may not have filled you in on a rule, which is there is no infinity in my household. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
So, I was going to encourage everybody to bring infinity.
Hey, knock yourselves out. Meanwhile, I'll be over here painting like a Forge World Astraeus, like the huge Primaris super heavy.
And those are going to be the perfect. So the goal is that we can kind of one, teach a bunch of concepts, but also help develop army theme and ideas out of the class. So it's definitely kind of a one-off. This is something that we would only offer to like private groups.
Yeah.
We did do something very similar with Adam over at Beer and Bolters last year, or actually earlier this year. It's still 19. I think it was hugely successful. I think everybody really enjoyed it. A little more personal tailored.
Nice.
And just using base techniques. We're all going to learn from each other's armies.
Very cool.
Because, one person is doing this and another person doing that, but we come together to teach it. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's a nice, unique experience, and we wanted to make sure that we can offer that to the independent characters.
Okay.
I believe this is the only place that it gets announced, correct?
Yeah, probably that and on your website. So that's it. That's it. Trust me, we'll fill it. So what about LVO, Adepticon? You guys are still going to those locations, yeah?
Oh yeah. So LVO, we're going to be back again this year. So nice and close. We really enjoy going down for that event, seeing all our friends, stuff like that. We're going to be teaching kind of the standard convention classes. I'm going to be doing the terrain class. We are going to be doing the terrain class. We're going to be doing the terrain class, the large figure, which is the Armiger. A lot of people are getting very interested in that metallics technique that we developed it on your Titan, really. And we've just refined it. We had a nice practice round of it to really refine it with that Titan for Nova.
Yeah.
So now that we've a couple of gigantic models under our belt, it seems like the techniques kind of developed pretty well. So that's mainly the feature of that class for the large figure. We are doing an alternate skin tones class, which is really fun. The name might be a little deceiving. What we're doing is we're painting on a Trogoth.
Oh, okay.
Trogoth.
Okay. Trogoth or whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
the fun thing with that is it really teaches how to blend and transition color, because we paint with two entirely separate colors, and you end up painting like the skin, the back and the shoulders and everything, kind of a heavy trollish, orcish, whatever color scheme. But then the belly, we're going to go into more flesh tones, and you learn how to transition and blend those colors together.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely an airbrush technique development class. You're going to develop just a little bit more with the airbrush and learn a little bit more on organics. It's a longer class. I want to say, oh no, that one's, I got to look at the schedule. I can't remember exactly how long that class is.
Okay.
And then we're going to do, and you'd probably be interested in this, we're going to be doing a Black Legion class. And that's kind of it's very similar to the Raven Guard class that we taught, but instead of going back and both black and white, we're going to develop how to paint black, how to use kind of create more interest in your black. So it doesn't just, it's not just primered and then edge highlight in a gray and Mechanicus gray or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
You know, we're going to develop black. But then we're also going to show you some really neat, quick techniques for getting through all of that trim, because those models are covered in trim. And we've developed a few techniques that really help to speed through that. So that's going to be a fun class. I'm really looking forward to teaching that class, because I'm about ready to start my Chaos Army too. So I got to bang through a bunch of Marines with that too. So anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, so LVO, Adepticon, what else you got going on?
Adepticon is going to be really fun. We're introducing a couple of new classes, convention classes for Adepticon. So the classes sell out fast, guys. If you want to get into it, make sure that you're on the first evening, like be there, sitting there waiting. If you're going to go after the VIG, I guess go after that. But I would suggest that if there's certain classes that you guys want,
better snatch them up
in,
fast. Yeah.
Grab classes, check out, then come back and get into the other stuff, because hobby classes are selling up the fastest besides the VIG. Yeah. And I don't know if they'll do the lottery thing this year or what, but
I think they will.
VIG, hobby classes are starting to sell up the fastest.
Yeah, you know, I've actually started steering away from that VIG thing. Like I found while it's cool and you get like a ton of stuff, I find that I end up not using a lot of that stuff, and it just sits around. And I'm like, oh, so it's really, you know, I don't know that it's become useful to me anymore. So I kind of go for just the mid range one now.
Yeah, usually about half of the VIG bag we end up leaving in the hotel room,
right?
Because we just don't have room to fly home with everything.
That is true too.
Almost.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, the classes are selling out fast. I think for people getting ready, you know, to register for Adepticon, especially if you've never done it before, it is a tight timeline. Like the floodgates open. Kind of grab what I always do is grab the one or two most important things you want, check out, and then go back and add things after that, because you're just not going to have time to leisurely, you know, look around. I have usually a plan all set up, and I've looked at the thing in advance, so I know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, I think they just put out the preview. I want to say this week, the event preview, so you can go in and preview what events you'd like to get into. Nice. So with that said, we are doing the standards. We're going to have the armature class there again. We're going to have the terrain class. Everybody loves those, but we're going to do a unique class. There's two of them that are going to be a vehicle and infantry class. Mm-hmm. And the fun part of this is that right now it's planned to be a Rhino and a Primaris Marine for one class, and a Plague Burst Crawler and a Plague Marine
for
the second class. So
nice.
They're both going to be unique classes. You will get a Rhino and a Marine, or the Plague Burst Crawler and a Marine. And there's a possibility that might change. The model might change, and it's definitely not going to downgrade, but it might be some new, not released stuff.
Right.
That's definitely in discussion. So, you know, that there's not a guarantee for it. we've just definitely discussed it, and the possibility is there. I would love to edge toward maybe the new Primaris Rhino looking thing, but we'll see what happens. We're still working on that, but it is for sure minimum. It's going to be the Rhino, and then the Plague Burst Crawler. I'm so looking forward. I think that's the one class I'm looking forward to the most, is painting the Plague Burst Crawler and the Plague Marine. Inadvertently, in our class last weekend in Atlanta, one of the students did the most amazing Death Guard-esque dreadnought, and the colors he chose and coupled that with the contrast paint. Man, I saw it, and the possibilities. I was like, oh,
very cool.
So I can't wait to develop this class.
Now, for those classes, is it just you and Kat teaching these, or are you bringing people like Justin and Sam and those folks, or they do their own things there?
They do their own. At conventions, all of the CK Studio artists are independent artists.
Gotcha.
So they will do all of their own classes, their own lineups and stuff like that. But yeah, me and Kat will be doing those.
Very cool.
So I want to say those classes are listed under Caleb Wissenbach, not CK Studios also. I guess I should have mentioned that, so that if people are out there looking for the CK Studios name for the class, they won't find it. It's under Caleb Wissenbach. So that's Adepticon.
That's amazing. I can't wait. I can't even tell you how much I'm looking forward to Adepticon this year. I'm just kind of.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to decide. Now I'm kind of working on my Black Legion stuff, so I'm trying to maybe see if I can get that done before I go out there and bring that. I haven't decided quite yet, so we'll see.
With Gold Demon there and the full presence of all the events that are going to be there, what Creature Caster is going to be doing, what all of these different manufacturers are going to be doing there. If you're on the fence of what event to go to and you're juggling and you can only do one, I would say this year, hands down, it would be Adepticon. If you only get one event this year, it's not even a question.
That's certainly my take on it. Like other people, for them it's Nova. For some people it's LVO. For me, it's Adepticon. Always will be. I think Nova's a close second, but Adepticon, just the scale and scope of it and the friends I have there, it's just too much for me. If I miss that and I see people posting and stuff, I'm just going to lose my mind. So I can't miss it.
And the things in store this year, it's not going to be like, I don't want to say it's not going to be like Adepticons in the past, but it's not going to be like Adepticons.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It just elevated even further. So,
I'm so excited for it.
Okay, so Kat, you want to talk a little bit about you have a key event note, a May workshop?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things coming up. One of the things for our schedule, we're going to be kind of revisiting some of the locations we've been in prior to with our 101 classes. So we're going to be hitting some 102 spots, getting Justin out there for some more 101s next year too. So we're looking at landing back in Portland. We'll be back at Heretics Game in the Bay Area February 29th to March 1st with Justin for a 101.
Cool.
That's exciting. We're really happy about that. We've been getting a lot of interest again in the 101 in that area. So we haven't done it there in a couple of years. So pretty stoked about that. And it's close to home for Justin, which is neat.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we're going to try and land a 102, which is our organics class. So we're deciding what the model is going to be. It may or may not be the orc that we've been focused on, but we may do that the weekend before Adepticon in Chicago. We're looking at the possibility of doing that. And then we'll be looking at revisiting Houston and Boston, LA, looking at Michigan with Vince. We've just got a lot of places coming up in the next 6-7 months. And throwing out the 102, the 103, the 101, and the key one that we're going to be visiting again will be likely going to Warhammer Fest in in the UK again.
Nice.
And Vince, super excited. We're going to have all of us, Caleb and Vince and I, there at the same time and running workshops down in London and then up at Element Games, which is just outside of Manchester. Vince will probably be doing something there at Dark Sphere Games again. He's already taught there for us once before, and they just loved him. He did a great job there, and he's interested in doing that London location again. Weekend before Warhammer Fest. Warhammer Fest generally falls like the second weekend in May, so we're thinking this will land the first weekend in May. And then Caleb and I will be up at Element, and we'll probably do a 101 over a Saturday, Sunday, and then do our night class on Monday and Tuesday, because the guys that have taken our classes already over there from different areas have been asking for that one in particular. So we're going to try and give that to them and get to do something at Element. That's a game store we've visited and really like the owners. So looking forward to that. So that'll be a fun event. That's going to be kind of one of our get to go do something fun again and go see Warhammer Fest again, and hoping that Caleb gets to enter into the Golden Demon there again, do another challenge. So it's going to be back to back with Golden Demons. I hope he has the bandwidth for it. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Are you entering something in Golden Demon, Caleb?
Am I going to be entering something in Golden Demon? Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I have plans. I have big plans.
You haven't started already?
No. I'm joking. I have one project that's about 85% completed.
Gotcha.
Luckily, this is a project that I was developing back before they canceled Golden Demon.
Yeah.
And it got shelved for a little bit, and it's ready to come back. So I'm super excited about that one. But then I'm in the middle of painting another project, and then in the sculpting phase of my third project. So I'm hopefully I'm not biting off more than I can chew, but I'm going to go for it.
Very cool. Very cool.
So awesome.
All right. Well, it sounds like you guys have just been honestly just nonstop, as have I, but in totally different directions. So, anything you want to add there before we kind of wrap up?
Just that I am really looking forward to coming back to the Astronomicon. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to kicking off the year with that. It set such a good note last year for this is the direction we're going in. We're just going to have fun with the community again, dive into the community that we love being a part of, and get to kind of share something really special, because it's, you get to go to the Astronomicon, you get to go hang out with Carl, you get to do a class there where it's kind of an intimate, special experience, and literally starts the whole year off right. So we've got one class before that down in Phoenix in a couple of weeks, and we get to go hang out with Adon.
Very cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So excited about that. I got a gift for him from Warhammer World. I got to take to him. So I'm super excited about that. And then we get to go from hanging out with Adon to coming to hang out with you, and then we just take off on the crazy train after that.
That's fantastic.
It's going to be awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be amazing.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm kind of really looking forward to the holidays at this point. I just need a break from work. So, and just when you think you get a break, we bought another company, and we got to now just before the holidays get them all situated. It's like, I thought we were going to slow down a little bit. I guess not. So,
the never-ending cycle.
Yeah. So anyway, super excited. You can find everything. There will be a link to the site on our show notes where you can go and find information on all the CK Studios classes that are coming up. How far in advance do you guys typically open the registration for these classes?
As soon as we have all of our confirmations in, we haven't put our new schedule out for 2020 yet, because we're in the talks with some of the venues.
Sure.
To get the dates nailed down right now. We've got talks open with literally Portland, Chicago, Houston, Boston, LA, Michigan, Victoria. And as soon as we have all of the confirmations in with them, we'll be posting them up, which I expect to be in the next few weeks. We'll have it nailed down. So as far in advance as we can helps everybody to plan, because a lot of people enjoy traveling to the classes. We get people that we just taught down in Atlanta, and we had a guy there from New York who's planning on coming out for the class in February to the Bay Area.
Very cool.
So the further out we can do that for folks, the easier it is for them to plan their travel.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I sometimes miss out on things like, oh, they're doing it, Warhammer World, they're doing, Forge World Day or whatever, and I'm like, if I'd known about that a little further in advance, I could have arranged for it. But, okay,
exactly.
Very cool. Well, listen, I am super excited to see you guys. I'm not going to see you at LVO. Yay! I am going to see you here. I am going to see you at Adepticon. We'll make a day of it. So.
Oh, it's so cool. Looking forward to it, Carl.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we're back. Thank you for joining us again for episode 197, Show of Force, Engines of Faith and Ruin. We definitely appreciate you listening. We hope that you have enjoyed the show and as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. So you guys have anything you want to add about Knights or anything we've talked about up to this point? Or no?
That was a good time.
I just want to paint more.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm in the zone. I'm loving it. I'm so glad I'm painting. Like it's been a long time.
Getting high off our own supply.
That muscle memory comes back pretty quick.
It does come back quick.
Yeah. The first couple I was like, oh God, I forgot, and now I'm just like, no problem. Okay. You can leave us reviews on iTunes. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star review and leave us a little note there. We definitely read all of those. Doesn't matter what country you're in. I look at all of them.
The internet works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, Google Translate helps me understand a little bit about what some people are saying. And then, if you feel like we're missing the mark here, or you want to give us some feedback, you can reach out to us through our Facebook page or join our Facebook group where we are at, and let us know what you think. You can also always email me at carl@theindependentcharacters.com if you have some feedback. But you're only going to get me there. Whereas on our Facebook group, you're going to talk to any of us because everybody who's ever been on the show is on that group.
Pretty active.
Yeah, and it's pretty darn active.
Yeah.
Speaking of active, so is our Patreon. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more of that, we do release for 2 of our levels of Patreon. We do release an extra episode every month. Which is a little bit shorter, different format. Usually Aaron and myself. I'm going to try pulling Justin in more since you're just down the street. We only record for like an hour and a half. And it's a little more free form, just kind of discussion.
I'm open, baby. My next class ain't till February.
And we use White Dwarf as kind of like a springboard for topics and that kind of thing. Yeah. That month's White Dwarf. At the highest level, we're also running a campaign, which is still going, and a new event has occurred this month in the campaign, which is a rogue planet has become available, and there are decreasing point values based on how much of control you have of the planet.
Nice.
So, yeah, really cool.
Little curveball.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. And that, unlike the Space Hulk that kind of came and went, this thing continues through the rest of the campaign, so people are going to be kind of battling over it for the remaining 7 months of the campaign.
Sweet.
So we're 5 months in at this point. I'd say probably 600 games have been logged, something like that.
What faction is looking like they're just...
So Chaos and Imperium have been neck and neck up till now, but I kind of got a feeling Imperium's going to take a step ahead this round. I think they're about to pull ahead. But Tyranids are kind of making a comeback. No, you know what it is? It's not just that it's Space Marines. There's just more Imperium players playing, and they've been a little more focused than the rest of us at this point.
I know from behind the veiled curtain of the hive mind, they are trying to get all their stuff together.
Yeah, see, that's our problem. Our group is kind of lagging.
So chaotic, yeah.
I might need to, did you win your game yesterday? Damn it. Justin, you gotta log the wins.
Yeah, I need to.
Anyway,
I really need to. I need to start winning more too. I gotta start playing Carl more.
Well, look. I was gonna say, come on over. We both play Chaos.
We all play Chaos, right? So win-win.
Not taking an L with the sisters, man.
That was rude, by the way. I heard that. I'm gonna play Carl.
Dude,
yeah, I know it's true. It's true. I can't argue.
I just saw Doug the other day. That guy kicks my booty with his Imperial Guard. So
he's got to repair all his tanks first. Okay, so
oh no,
that's it. Until next time, this is Carl.
This is Jody.
And this is Justin.
And we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where every night is a good night.
And the light of the Astronomicon reaches deep into the night.
And we bow to none.
Well, again, thanks so much, guys. We will see you next time. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.